Welcome everybody back into Nerd Sesh. As always, I'm Carson Brabber, and alongside me is Logan Camden. And you guys may have noticed, but we did not do our usual Sunday night live stream instant reaction to the NFL slate this week. We apologize for that. It will not happen again for some time. I just happened to be in Buffalo. I was at the Bills game and I didn't get back until late last night. So here we are today. And instead of going through every single game, since we're a couple days removed now, we are going to each give you our 5 big NFL takeaways from week 4. And then at the end of the show, we are going to update our bi-weekly contender rankings, going through our top 10 there. But first, Logan, let's start with the biggest game on the Sunday slate, I would say, in terms of implications. 2 teams who have perennially been at the top of their conference entered this game 1-2. And the Kansas City Chiefs took out the Baltimore Ravens convincingly. What was your big takeaway from this one, Logan?
The Chiefs' offense is going to be just fine. That was kind of the no-brainer one, I feel like, from this game. Mahomes lit the Ravens up. 270 yards, 4 touchdowns, nearly 7 yards per pass attempt. And I don't think this is the most loaded offense or receiving group of the Chiefs era, but what I'm confident in saying is I do think this is the deepest receiving room of the Mahomes era. And I know they had their growing pains and just were bad early on. But with Xavier Worthy back, I'm confident this offense is going to be consistently good. He's so dynamic, man. And that's really what this team was missing. Somebody who can convincingly win one-on-one on routes, who can actually create separation for Patrick Mahomes. Even banged up, even not having, being up to game speed, Worthy just pops in a different way from any of these Chiefs receivers. And it is important to mention that they are still without Rashee Rice, even though they have this really good game. But even though there's not Worthy's a number 1 for sure, and I think Rashee is too. I think they have 2 number 1s in the room. But even though they aren't dominant wideouts, I still do like having Hollywood and Juju now as depth guys, right? Thornton now as a depth guy. I think the Chiefs are going to be all right. And I do like how the pass protection has come along. I think it's important to mention this team still can't run the ball. It's actually hilarious, man. I think the Chiefs have one of the just funniest rushing attacks in football, the way that they just constantly hand it off no matter the situation, even though you know they're not going anywhere. They're averaging a whopping 3.5 yards per carry right now, and Patrick Mahomes still, through 4 weeks, this is still true. Mahomes leads this team in rushing, which I think is actually comical. But the big thing is the offense looked volatile. They dropped 37 points. I mean, it was like a dam almost, Carson. Just this barrier that the Chiefs could not break through even through last year. So even though the Ravens defense has been really bad early on in the season, I think that's something that we could also touch on. But yeah, it is encouraging that you drop 37 points. Your number 1 receiver is still out, and Mahomes in this offense look like the Chiefs of old. They just look sluggish, man. Bad processing, bad play calling, lack of explosiveness, and this is a really encouraging game for the Chiefs to get back on track. So, I don't think either of us were hitting the panic button about this team and this offense, but it's really encouraging that they get going, and I think as they get healthier and healthier, we're going to see this offense continue to pop.
And this is really why I tried to hold out on having any big picture panic takes about this Chiefs offense. It's when you're lacking your 2 best playmakers by far, that's going to make a significant difference, obviously. And I think that Rashee Rice coming back in here is only going to make this offense look a good bit better. My preseason take was this would be the best Chiefs offense we've seen since 2022, and it was a very slow start. And obviously this is not a perfect offense. I still don't think we can say that this is going to be one of the elite offenses, but I do think they'll be a very good offense. And you just see how much of a difference Worthy really makes here, man. The explosiveness, because early in the season, first 3 weeks with him out, it was really Tyquan Thornton who they were relying on for all of their explosive plays in the passing game. Worthy is obviously the superior talent, and there's just a number of ways to get him involved, right? There's a go route that he wins for 37 yards in this game. There's an end around that he takes for 35 yards. He is just a different level of playmaker than the weapons who they'd been relying on in the first 3 weeks. And there were even a couple more shots downfield vertically where Worthy had a little separation and Mahomes took a chance and they didn't quite connect. But I think he adds a different dimension to this offense. Then Rashid comes in. He's the down-to-down reliable. If you give him a full season, 100 catch, 1,200 yard kind of guy. When you've been throwing to the worst pass catchers in football, basically, through the first 3 weeks, and now you're actually going to get a pretty good group of offensive weaponry in the passing game, makes me feel very good about what Patrick Mahomes is capable of, because even in the first 3 weeks, although his production wasn't maybe super impressive, I thought he played totally fine, and that's by his standards, which are obviously very high. Also, you mentioned the pass protection. Got to bring this up still. Patrick Mahomes has been pressured at the 4th lowest rate in all of football. So those guys are doing their job. The run game, absolutely. It's clunky. It's inefficient. They run the ball too much for my liking. I will say this was a more productive game on the ground for them. But I do think that also says a lot about the Ravens' run defense issues, which I think has to be the other big takeaway from this game. Takeaway 1, the Chiefs are going to be fine, and I think that offense is going to look much better when they're at full strength with Rashee Rice out there. But the Ravens defense just remains kind of an abomination. Like, they're obviously super banged up, right? No Madubuike, but he's now out for the year. That's a huge loss for them. But no Van Noy, Marlon Humphrey, and Roquan Smith get hurt in this game. Like, it's crazy how many injuries they are dealing with. But nevertheless, the results are really, really bad. They are 30th in EPA allowed per rush. This was arguably the best run defense in football last year. I think they have had some confusing fronts when you look at how Zach Orr is calling these games defensively. But also now you lose Madubuike, and like that's a big personnel loss for your run defense. So you have to be concerned about that. Yes, they are facing some really good offenses early in the season, no question. The Chiefs with Worthy back out there, the Bills and the Lions. But you never want to be letting up 41, 38, 37, consistently letting the opposing team put up 400 plus yards of offense. It's so disappointing for the talent level that they have, and this performance was probably the most concerning of the season so far defensively. I also thought, though, this was an ugly, disappointing offensive game from the Ravens. And I want to give credit to Spags and the Chiefs defense, because this is the second week in a row that we have seen the opposing defense really do a phenomenal job of rushing to contain Lamar, doing everything they can to keep him in the pocket and not allow any of those big explosive plays that come when he escapes. They consistently gave him trouble with spies, with some late rushes, and did a really great job on that front. I also thought Lamar was just bad in this game. I thought that he missed some potential throws downfield. I mean, there's one that sticks out in my mind where he has got clean pocket, good protection, wide open receiver, 15 yards downfield over the middle, and Lamar just kind of looks at him, doesn't throw the ball, ends up taking a sack. I just think it's been disappointing from him these last 2 weeks, taking a lot more negative plays than you're used to. Also not generating the explosives at the rate that you're used to. And then obviously all of the weirdness with him leaving the game late, obviously reported as a hamstring injury. We'll see. An incredibly strange situation in the sense that there wasn't visible discomfort there. Initially, there wasn't immediate medical attention, and just seemed like he was disheartened, and this whole team was disheartened, down multiple scores and clearly on the way to a 1-3 start. So just a lot of bad vibes here. I haven't liked the play calling defensively, but also offensively. Like, what are the Ravens doing running the ball just 17 times in this game? Only 11 handoffs. Obviously, part of that is they go down big and then they become more reliant on the passing attack. But, like, you're averaging 10 yards per rushing attempt, and you're struggling in the passing game. So this is another recurring kind of inexplicable thing they do every once in a while. They're hurt. The vibes are really bad. I haven't liked the coaching. Star players haven't played up to their standards really on both sides of the ball defensively. Again, they get hurt in this game, but you can look at Marlon Humphrey. You can look at Roquan Smith offensively. You can look at Lamar. You can look at Derrick Henry. Both of those guys have not been up to their normal level. Derrick Henry, has had a couple of really quiet weeks, has struggled some with the fumbles, didn't get the ball a lot in this game. And Lamar these last 2 weeks has just been way below his standards. So things are looking really bad for Baltimore right now. I still think there's going to be a bounce back. I still think they are absolutely going to win this division, and there's clearly the potential for them to hit the ground running and peak late like they did last season when they also struggled early in the year. But this is just not the juggernaut that I expected to see. I thought the Ravens we're going to be the best team in football. And they've underachieved my expectations, honestly, on both sides of the ball. Offensively, I think they are going to be one of the absolute best units in football, kind of no matter what. They've had a couple issues, but as long as Lamar and Derrick Henry stay upright and play up to their potential, like, they're just one of the most unsolvable offenses we've ever seen. But they haven't played up to their potential these last couple weeks, and the defensive stuff is concerning. And with Maye out now, like, that does ding my confidence in them being able to make a full comeback to their potential by a decent bit, particularly because of the run defense. Last year, they started slow. Zach Orr was struggling as their defensive coordinator, and then we've talked about this a lot, but down the stretch of the season, they were as good as any defense in football. We'll see if they can do that again, and that becomes even more difficult when you're missing one of your best defensive players.
Yeah, I am worried about the Ravens. The biggest thing to me is just the Lamar injury. Like, if Lamar misses extended time, I do think there's a chance the Steelers could somehow steal the division just by black voodoo magic. I don't think the Steelers are good, but if the Ravens keep spiraling, like, you know, Maye makes a massive difference to me because, I mean, that's an all-pro, Pro Bowl caliber guy in terms of run defense and being able to get to the quarterback. The reason I took the Chiefs in this game, though, was kind of the Ravens' track record. Like, one, just in head-to-head matchups against the Chiefs, it just seems like the Chiefs have their number, so I didn't feel confident in Lamar. I don't normally feel confident picking the Ravens in big games anyway. But it's weird, man. All of these Ravens games have been lost in the most Ravens way possible. They lose the turnover margin, you know, just a couple of bad plays on series where they throw the game away if it's the Henry fumbles or if it's Lamar throwing an interception or Lamar fumbling. And then the defense just getting gashed. The Ravens have just looked bad. So, they're way too talented for me to bail on them. I'll just say it as simply as that. Like, I still do, even as banged up as they are, I'm not going to quit on them. I am going to move them down my contender rankings. I think that's obvious. The only thing that would make me really hit the panic button about Baltimore is if Lamar had a serious injury and he was out and going to miss significant time. Mm-hmm. I think that the Lamar and Derrick Henry combination is too talented, you know, for me to not bet on them to win this division or make the playoffs or have a chance at going on a run. And as bad as the defense has looked, I can't imagine that it's this bad all season long. Like, I have a faith that they're going to get back to average level, right? Like, they were missing, I think, 5 starters coming into the game. By the end of the game, I think they're missing 8 defensive starters or more. So it's a long season, is what I'll say. We still have 13 long weeks of football. I'm going to let people jump off the ship. And right now, if this was a stock portfolio, I'd be buying Baltimore because I still think they win 11 games. That would be my prediction, you know?
Yeah, I agree. And if you look at the remaining schedule, I mean, there's a couple tough games in there. They're
going to
Green Bay,
the
obviously.
Bengals
really
and
tough.
Browns, I think, twice. Like,
They've
they should
got
beat
the
the
Bengals and
Steelers
Browns
in one game.
Absolutely. I mean, they should dominate the division. And then they've got the Texans. They've got Bears, Dolphins, Jets, Patriots. Like, there's just not teams that should be beating them.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing. Obviously, they have not looked up to par against the best of the best, and that's the measuring stick for them.
That's the final component that we should bring up is just the brutal start. Like,
you
know, their losses are against great teams.
Absolutely, but nevertheless, you got to get one of these. You got to get 2 of these, especially when I came into the year thinking, hey, nobody's going to be better than the Ravens. And the Bills game obviously was the closest, and they controlled that game for most of it. The Lions game was close, but they were outclassed, and this game wasn't close at all. They were totally outclassed. So there's a lot of bad vibes going around Baltimore right now, but I agree with you. I am extremely confident that barring a major injury to Lamar, they are going to be in the playoffs, and I think they'll look significantly better later in the year. But I do have to dock them some for now because these defensive issues are way larger than I would have anticipated, and they just haven't looked like the football team I expected to see. And now you do have the Lamar injury, and I want to be clear, when I talk about like the strange circumstances of him coming out of the game, I'm not insinuating that Lamar is not hurt. I think that Lamar is hurt. His status is up in the air for this week. We'll see what happens there. What I'm talking about more so is just that because the situation appeared so strange from the outside and because of what was going on in the game at that time and because of the body language and because of like some of the initial uncertainty on the broadcast, even like it just creates more room for speculation, which creates for more bad vibes around a team that certainly does not need more of that right now. And also just like publicly, there's a lot of stuff being said among the Ravens that I don't think plays well. You mentioned the Marlon Humphrey weird podcast thing incident last week. Kyle Hamilton had the quote about Ravens fans being spoiled. Jim Harbaugh week 1 had the quote about Kyle Hamilton. How did he get a Notre Dame degree when he tried to make that play on the attempted 2-point conversion? Like there's just a lot of stuff in terms of presentation, morale, that you don't like right now, and obviously that is super intertwined with the bad results on the football field. But this hamstring for Lamar is definitely something to monitor because hamstrings are tricky. Hamstrings can linger. Hamstrings can severely limit your explosiveness, could impact his effectiveness as a runner, and it's something that generally you want to be a little bit careful with. It's better to allow for a recovery than it is to try to play through that when you're basically on one leg and kind of prolong the recovery time until you're back. But at the same time, when you downgrade to Cooper Rush, it's going to be exceedingly difficult for you to win a football game against the Rams in a couple weeks, right? Against some of these actual good teams. So lots of reasons for concern. But at the same time, Logan, I'm with you. If people are selling all their Ravens stock, I'll come in and I'll buy some. Because I just can't ignore the talent that is on this football team, and I can't ignore the fact that last year they started 0-2 and people were selling stock early in the season. And obviously they didn't win the Super Bowl last year, but they got pretty damn close to an AFC title game appearance. They won 12 games. That's what the Ravens tend to do. I'll give you my first big takeaway, Logan. We may have seen the greatest tie in NFL history on Sunday night. I mean, what an incredible football game between the Cowboys and the Packers. I will say, I was very underwhelmed by the tie outcome just in this game. I'm not anti-tie. I think it's kind of fun.
Oh, I am.
Every once in a while.
The ties suck. I mean,
I don't know that I agree with that. And here's why, Logan. Here's why. If you play 70 minutes of football and nobody has separated in one regular season game, I'm fine with it. There's only 2 or 3 of them a season. I mean, if that. And they're not having a significant impact on like any team season usually because of that. And sometimes it just feels right. It's like, all right, you can't play football forever, man, especially if it's not a playoff game. At some point you increase the injury risk and you can just look at each other and say, hey, man, great game. Sports are always so binary. It's always so all or nothing. It's win or lose. Even if you are 0.2% better than your opponent, you leave the game feeling incredible and they leave the game feeling devastated. Ties are an exception to that. I'm normally okay with it. However, with all of the emotional storylines in this game, I wanted glory and I wanted devastation. I either wanted Jerry Jones in pads on the field making a game-winning play, or I wanted him getting run over and dying from a broken heart. That's what it felt like was on the line in this game, and then it ends and it's kind of like, all right, emotionally, I guess this is a win for the Cowboys because you would have thought the Packers are the better team. They'd win. Jerry's probably happy because he gets to have some quote about how they felt great about their game plan for Micah. He always seems to only be talking about Micah, or I guess Michael, he calls him. But here's my real takeaway from this game, Logan. Dakota Prescott, man. With Burrow out for this year, Dak really might be a top 5 quarterback in the game. I mean, he is slinging that shit, and I know for a hater like you, it probably makes you sick.
No, he's throwing to my darling boy George Pickens now, so it's okay.
I'll never forget, Logan, you ranked Dak 17 in your quarterback rankings last year.
Such a good ranking, bro.
I almost threw up. I almost threw up then, and I would throw up now. That throw to Tolbert in overtime, that was probably the throw and catch of the season, right? I mean, to make that throw rolling out under pressure, and then for Tolbert to make such an excellent play, coming back to the ball, somehow keeping his feet in bounds, that diving catch, incredible balance, coordination, all of it. But it was also just an insane demonstration of arm talent to get it there accurately. He's just so good. When we talk about the pinnacle of pocket passing in this sport, Dak Prescott is at the absolute top of that list when it comes to processing the game from within the pocket, when it comes to big-time aggression and audacity, yet generally knowing where his limits are. Like, he just strikes that balance so incredibly well. He's so accurate. And look, he's carrying this team. He is making the absolute best that he can out of this roster right now. He's leading the league in passing, which, by the way, I predicted he would lead the league in passing. And you said same thing, basically, that he could have 5,000 yards this year, something like that. Just hung 40 on an elite defense without CeeDee Lamb. Look, the Packers obviously took a bad loss to the Browns. Their defense was still awesome even in that game, and their defense was utterly dominant in the first two games against two offenses that were among the best in football last year. So nobody had been more impressive defensively through 3 weeks than the Green Bay Packers. And Dak put 40 on him without his best weapon. You do have to give credit to George Pickens. I mean, what a playmaker he is, specifically as a vertical threat downfield. He had a big game, but Dallas is putting up 28.5 points per game right now. They're one of the best offenses in football. They just happen to be letting up 33 points per game. So they can't do anything serious because of this defense. That's the reality. I feel like that was clear from week one. I remember tweeting during that first game, the Cowboys are going to average, I think I said 28 points per game this year and let up 30, and that's been the case, and that's going to remain the case. It's one of the worst defenses in football. But I do believe any given Sunday, they can beat anybody because their offense just might not get stopped. I mean, that's what happened half of this football game. They did not get stopped, literally. They did not get stopped once by one of the absolute best defenses in football. So props to Dak. Obviously, the Micah situation is still unfortunate because if he were on this football team, well, that's how the Cowboys would be capable of doing something serious. But Dak is getting the absolute most that he can out of this team right now.
I mean, my feeling coming away from this game, even as much of a Cowboys hater as I am, I couldn't go full-on contender because the defense is quite literally the worst in football statistically right now. But that's a good way to put it. I wouldn't want to see the Cowboys in the playoffs, certainly. Like, the Cowboys just have this, like, crazy range of outcomes where Dak just has so little margin for error, I guess is how I'd put it. If Dak throws one interception or two picks, their goose is cooked. The game is over. They can't survive any kind of external factors not swinging their way, especially losing the turnover margin like that. But if Dak just puts on a masterclass, I mean, dude, he's literally just going to do what Joe Burrow did last year. I mean, they are going to light it up he's going to be on that TikTok that we just did, man, that video. Most passing yards without making the playoffs. Like, that really does feel like what Dak is. It's the classic, our defense is bad. He has to throw us back into every football game, and we got to try to run a track meet. The thing is, though, even with the CD injury, because I think Cowboys haters would be like, oh, CD, they're fucked. They're really not. The Cowboys have playmakers. Pickens is a bona fide number one. Kevontae Turpin is a playmaker in space, and Dak loves getting him the rock. Tolbert can make plays. I mean, Dak said it. Jake Ferguson's a good player. Like, Dak said it before the game. They asked him, what are you going to do without CD? He was like, I'm going to get the ball to my guys, and they can make plays, and that's exactly what they did. So I'm disappointed with what we've gotten out of Green Bay, admittedly, just with how high I got on them after week 2. Like, I was hoping for a cruise control victory against Cleveland, which they didn't get. I was hoping for a dominant win against Dallas. So I have been a little bit disappointed with Green Bay, but I come around with the same sentiment and the same take, man. If Dallas sneaks in as a wild card, I would not want to see them in the playoffs, man. That offense is volatile. They're explosive, and Dak can go toe-to-toe with anybody. That is for sure.
And he's one of those guys who can hold the whole offense together, man. What a stud. What a
I would move Dak over Geno and Baker.
I mean, you got to go higher than that. I just don't see how you can have him over as a top 8 quarterback at least. Probably.
I couldn't move him above Herbert or Stafford, but I could move him into the top 10. I'll do it.
I think that he's right there with Stafford. I genuinely do. How is that crazy to say?
Like that, man.
I love Stafford. I'm talking about who I think is like the 6th best quarterback in football. And Jaden is still in that range. He just hasn't been playing as of late.
I think Stafford's closer to Herbert than Dak is to Stafford.
I don't agree with that. I do not agree with that. I think that Herbert is part of a tier break, and then you get to Dak and Stafford, and they're very close. Like, Sometimes with Stafford, I just think at this age, his lack of mobility is so extreme that it can be more limiting than Dak, who can still move around enough to extend plays a little bit. Like sometimes we talk about Aaron Rodgers with the old man sacks. No disrespect to Stafford because the guy is incredible, but there are some old man moments for him out there, and that just doesn't happen with Dak. Like I actually think his mobility has probably improved a little bit again this year with his full recovery from this injury. So I just don't know what more the guy would need to show you that he's like one of these damn good quarterbacks. You have the tier 1 guys who have their insane god tier physical traits, whatever, and Dak doesn't have that, but he's like as good as you can be while not having that. So here's just really the story of the Cowboys season. I mentioned the scoring offense numbers, but also in terms of yards per play, they're 6th on offense, they're 31st on defense. That's a formula that's going to make it tough to get to the playoffs, but it's also going to allow them to play some of these really good teams tough. And that's just much more my takeaway from this game than anything about Green Bay. Honestly, I thought Green Bay's offense looked great, and this felt like a day where anybody would have had a hell of a hard time stopping the Cowboys offense once they got in rhythm, really throughout the entire second half. Did this game concern you about Green Bay?
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried about Green Bay in terms of just like their consistency. I mean, but that's like the word with Green Bay. We know what ceiling they can reach on a game-to-game basis. Like, I love the way that Jordan Love spreads the ball out. That's one of my favorite things about him, man. I just feel like it makes it so hard with the balance of Green Bay's offense to defend against. Like, the fact that you can turn to Josh Jacobs, the fact that Love doesn't favor any receiver. You know, he can hit Kraft, he can hit Musgrave, he can hit Dobbs, he can hit Wicks. Like, Savion Williams is a playmaker. Matthew Golden was coming up and making some big plays too. Like, there's just a lot of different playmakers, and there's such good balance with the offense. So, and then the defense, I would like to see the secondary have a little bit better performance, but just consistency. I know that the Packers have the ability. I know they have the coaching staff. They have the roster and the talent. Just about putting it all together. But there's moving pieces here, and I don't question their talent. That's the one thing with Green Bay. I know how talented they are. So, I don't know. Just with the context of their 2 losses, I say loss.
It's a tie, buddy. Get rid of that binary mentality and embrace the
like,
tie.
You don't think this feels like a loss for Green Bay?
I don't think it feels like a win because it's a tie.
Well said.
Well,
Fucking
obviously, Dallas feels better about the tie than Green Bay does. I think Green Bay is disappointed with the tie.
Because Dallas is a team that I would consider to be firmly mediocre. Cleveland is a bad offense, the worst in football.
The Cleveland loss is terrible, obviously. Yeah, it's like the worst loss of the season for any really good team so far this year.
It's just like when I compare them to a team like Philadelphia, I just feel like Philadelphia hasn't left meat on the bone where Green Bay has.
Well, consistency absolutely is the thing to point at with this team if you're going to knock them for something. That being said, I feel like the ceiling that they have showed on both sides of the ball, if you were to take the best Green Bay has looked on defense and combine it with the best they've looked on offense, that's the best team in football. That's the most impressive stuff in terms of peaks on both sides of the ball we've seen from any team. I mean, what they look like defensively in the first couple games, what they look like offensively in week 2 in this game, it's like, man, they can be the absolute best of the best on both sides of the ball. For me, I am more concerned, and I wouldn't even use the word concerned, I'm only saying that when we measure them up against the best of the best, about the offense than the defense. I really think the defense is exceptional overall when you think about what Micah adds here as an elite pass rusher. They're very good against the run. They've got the elite safety 10. They just got a bunch of studs in their front 7 too, and they've got a great play caller. I believe they will have a bounce-back performance and remain dominant on that side of the ball. To me, it's more going to hinge upon how consistent is the passing attack in the offense and how great can they be when we talk about their chances to win a Super Bowl. And yeah, Cowboys defense tax in this game, that's fair. I thought Jordan Love was great. I thought they ran the ball extremely well. The one thing that I would nitpick, I don't think it's a nitpick really, that I would criticize with the Packers offense in this game that was otherwise so exceptional, I just didn't like how they approached the final drive. Like, yeah, you get points on the board and you do tie. I just don't think when you start a drive with 4 minutes, 40 seconds, you should ever feel like you're really up against the clock. In a situation where that's all the time you have, that's plenty of time to drive the football down the field and not be in a scramble situation where it's like, oh my God, Jordan Love threw that ball into the end zone and there's 1 second left on the clock. I just thought there should have been more tempo. There should have been more hurry up offense. I thought they probably ran the ball a little bit too much, and it was working. But when you're picking up 7-yard chunks and you're never stopping the clock, it's not even a possibility, because it's like, okay, obviously, if you're throwing the ball right, there's more potential for big gains. And also, if you have an incompletion, that does stop the clock. I just didn't like that they were put in that spot at the end. I think LaFleur is a brilliant play caller. I would criticize the game management there, because they had a chance to win this game. I mean, their offense felt unstoppable, and then they just found themselves in a position where, like, that last play, they couldn't even run properly. It was just, shit, I better not let the clock run out here and have us lose this game that we should otherwise tie.
Yeah, and it kind of feels like you're playing for the tie almost at that point, right, when you're taking so much time. And you mentioned it earlier. These things don't normally come back to bite teams on the ass when we're talking about playoff results and who gets in and who doesn't. I will mention, I don't think it's going to come into play for Green Bay at all. It could come in somehow for Dallas on the back end. I remember 2018, the Steelers tied the Cleveland Browns week 1, 21-21. Mm-hmm. I believe we had the tiebreaker over... Okay, we didn't have the tiebreaker, but we ended up tying Cleveland week 1. Juju Smith-Schuster fumbles away the game in week 16 for an easy win against the Saints. They end the season 9-6-1. The 10-6 Colts sneak into the playoffs, and they miss out. So, sucks. Ties suck. It probably won't come back to get them, but it could.
Yeah, I'm such an anti-tie.
I'm so anti-tie, dude. It kills me. I was really hoping Green Bay was just going to put their nuts on the table and say, fuck this field goal. We're humming one into the end zone, man.
That would be insane.
It would be ballsy, man. It would have been ballsy.
No, it would have been stupid is what it would have been. But you know what else is kind of stupid? I mean, I'm thinking back. Yes, they were running the ball a lot. Also, if I'm not mistaken, their last 2 actual passing plays were into the backfield and they lost yardage on both of them. So it's just like, come on, man. You got to be able to move the ball in chunks. They were moving the ball. That's great. But when you got under 5 minutes, let's go. Let's open up the passing attack, which had been super successful. Did not like that from LaFleur. In terms of the implications of the tie, yes, I agree. There is potential that it impacts Dallas. It's brutal for them because emotionally you're like, yay, we didn't lose to the Packers. But then you're also like, damn, we probably can't afford a tie because we're already on the outside looking into the playoff race, trying to make it as like kind of a dark horse wild card. For the Packers, they're going to make the playoffs. But when you talk about the division, when you got to go out there and outperform the Lions, that could matter in that context. What is your next big takeaway from this week 4 action, Logan?
My next take is the Chargers are still contenders, but I think they could be in trouble. I wouldn't say I'm panicking about Los Angeles. I do think with some of the injuries now that I think Kansas City and them are going to be battling basically until the last week of the season for this division. I think it's going to be a dogfight between these two and just who can keep pace. Joe Alt suffers a high ankle sprain in this game. It's unconfirmed how much time he could miss, potentially a month. Maybe more. We already know all-pro tackle Rashawn Slater is out for the season. Mekhi Becton also missed this game with a concussion. And just some of the numbers out of this game and on this season now for the Chargers worry me a little bit in tandem with some of these offensive line injuries that are quickly stacking up. For one, the Los Angeles Chargers are the most blitzed team in football, and Justin Herbert is the most blitzed quarterback in football. I think that is by design. Specifically this week against the Giants, I thought the biggest reason why the Giants won this game was because of their ferocious defensive line. Carson, they had a pass rush win rate of 68%. That is the highest pass rush win rate by a team since the stat started being tracked back in 2017. Justin Herbert right now, through 4 weeks of the season, is second in knockdowns and is fourth in most hurries. And I want to give a ton of credit to Justin Herbert on the season because I think he has done a phenomenal job with pretty average to below average line play in terms of mitigating pressure, creating behind the line of scrimmage. It's just I feel like the bottom could maybe drop out with the offensive line situation against some really good defensive lines for this team because it is the concern with this unit. In this game, too, I thought the self-inflicted wounds killed the Chargers.
Totally.
So, I'm not panicked about them just because they lost to the Giants. It's all the other things. They lose the turnover battle 2-0. They lose the points off battle 10-0. Can't have that happen. Penalties obliterated the Chargers in this game. They have 14 penalties for 107 yards. There are some encouraging things out of this game. Tui Pelotu comes away with 4 sacks. Unreal. Amari and Hampton goes for 128 yards, but the Giants have literally had the worst rushing defense in football, so I think that's more of a byproduct of how bad the Giants are than the Chargers really getting that going. So I'm just a little bit more worried about the Chargers, man. Week 1, week 2, I was feeling gung-ho. I said the Chargers were going to win the AFC West. I was all on the ship. And football, man, it's so circumstantial. 1 week, your season can change on a dime with injuries, with stuff like that. And I just feel like, again, I want to emphasize the win rate stat, the pass rush, it is exacerbated to an insane extent when you're facing the Giants pass rush, who maybe arguably have the best pass rush in football top to bottom. But it is concerning in tandem with what we've seen through 4 weeks. Again, second most knockdowns, fourth most hurries, the most blitzed quarterback in football. The Chargers' offensive line just allowed the highest pass rush win rate in a single game in NFL history since that stat started being tracked. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm hitting the panic button a little bit with the Chargers, and specifically with my take about them winning this division. I'm a little bit more worried.
I think the Chargers are very good, but I'm with you on the offensive line concerns. Obviously, that was the thing holding me back preseason from saying, yeah, this team is a Super Bowl contender, was the Slater injury. And now this team, in terms of their protection, their offensive line, it's been all about, hey, we have an elite tackle tandem because the interior offensive line is sketchier, and now they're without both of those tackles for at least a while. So that is definitely a major problem. You mentioned the hurry stats, the knockdown stats. Justin Herbert is also the third most pressured quarterback in NFL in terms of guys who have started every game, and that's by pressure percentage, but he's pretty damn close to Cam Ward up there. So this is why we praised him so much last week with Theo. It was such a Justin Herbert glaze. It was like, look at what he's doing in spite of these circumstances. He's playing flawlessly while he's being pressured at a really high rate, while the run game is struggling. And as good as he is, at some point, those circumstances may come back to bite them and keep them from being among the best of the best and just being a very good football team. And it feels like that's what happened in this game. This was also just such a peculiar loss, though, because absolutely, I mean, pressure was the theme of the game. But the 2 turnovers returned deep into their territory is really the entire reason that LA lost this game. You mentioned the penalties too, but the sexy Dexy pick off the deflection that's taken back like inside their 10. And then the next pick from Herbert was legitimately bad. I mean, the receiver fell down, but he also just floated that one. And that was an easy pick. So that one you absolutely have to put on him. And then even in spite of that, they got this football game to 18-21 before the end of the third quarter. And you're thinking, all right, the Giants, yeah, they're up, but they have not been moving the football well. The Chargers are the better team. Let's see what they can do. Justin Herbert, big-time stuff. And they just never moved the football. Like, they never had an opportunity to tie the game up or take the lead. And you think about the last play of the game, what is it? 3rd and long, just ridiculous pressure. Herbert gets sacked for a big loss. That was kind of the story of the game for them. But for a team that had looked so impressive through 3 weeks, this is a very disappointing performance playing down to competition. I still like the Chargers a lot, but we'll get there when we do our top 10 contender rankings. They have dropped a little bit for me. I don't know how they couldn't, especially with this Joe Alt injury. Hopefully he is 100% later in the year when it matters, but that's a significant loss for them. On the flip side of this, it's Jackson Dart's debut. I think that we've seen some hilarious stuff come out of this. I saw Theo quote tweeted, some guy wrote like the craziest little lead to this feature or column about Jackson Dart talking about how he'd been battered and bruised in the game and taken some more hits than he expected, but he still stood mighty and tall. And it was just like, all right, man, Jackson Dart was okay. I mean, clearly just a big upgrade
yards,
athletically. Yeah, the big difference is that he does have an impact in the rushing game over Russ.
100%.
Other than that,
he also looks confident, you know.
Yeah, but he did take the 5 sacks. They weren't moving the ball in the passing game, so I don't think that upgrade really makes much of a difference for the Giants. I think that Dart will be a little bit better. And listen, I got to give them credit for winning this football game, because I was talking about my concern with throwing him in there against such a tough defensive opponent, and they were able to do enough to get the win, but I don't know that I would be overly enthused about this performance from Dart necessarily.
Top 5 swaggiest white boy QB of all time, though.
Definitely quirked up.
Drew Lock, Baker Mayfield, Gardner Minshew, Jackson Dart. Who's the 5th?
Bo Nix.
What?
Gardner Minshew.
No, I said Minshew. Minshew's a lock. Minshew's
sorry.
a lock.
Oh,
He's
I
got
forgot. He's a
aura
lock.
and sauce, and he did hit that
Josh
little
Allen.
dance.
They don't want you to know Josh Allen because he's not a swag merchant. It's just one of his many A-plus traits. Whereas these other guys you're talking about, they're more aura merchants.
There's got to be
Jackson
another
Dart's a
white
cool
boy
guy.
with a little more aura, with a little more. Johnny Football.
Sure, Johnny Football. There you go. That's who you always want to be drawing NFL comparisons to.
He did hit that little dance in the end zone, man. That shit was clean.
Yeah, indeed. All right. My next big takeaway pertains to a game involving the other LA team. I think when you look at the Rams, what Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams are doing right now, especially Puka, obviously, but that's the best wide receiver duo in football. And the level of playmakers that they are just makes me feel so good about this offense. Those two have 772 combined receiving yards, 193 combined yards per game. Next most in the NFL, it's actually Quentin Johnson and Keenan Allen, speaking of the LA teams, but they're at 568. So in terms of yardage per game, it's a 50-yard difference between the Rams top receiver duo and everybody else. Puka has just elevated to such a ridiculous level, man. This guy feels like he can do everything out there. I mean, the physicality, the ability to separate, but also the contested catch making, what he does after the catch. And there's just a clutch factor with him that I feel like I can't quite quantify, but like so consistently, 3rd and long, this guy is just there making a play. And he's been the most productive receiver in football. There's a physicality with him in every aspect of the game, even when we get into like run blocking. So he's got to be stamped as a top 5 receiver in football with what he's doing. And Devontae hasn't been as crazy productive, but he's another guy who just kind of has that clutch factor. If it's in the red zone, if it's a big 3rd down, his technique as a route runner, ability to get open if you leave him one-on-one. And he and Stafford are clicking pretty damn fast. And Stafford is still exceptional, man. I mean, the level that he's playing at is so impressive. There's no question he's still one of the top 7 quarterbacks in football on the year. He's got the 2nd most passing yards in football. He's averaging over 8 yards per attempt, 8 touchdowns passing. They're a really damn good team. And then you look at the defense, and Jared Verse is such a monster, and this pass rush is so good. And I don't think we really learned anything about the Rams in this game. I think they just took care of business, and they outplayed a good football team. I think that that's, for me, maybe as much of the takeaway as this one. The Colts are just really solid, man.
I mean, that's my take. In not just that, I think the Colts are going to be in the playoffs, and they're on my contender bubble right now.
Wow.
I won't reveal exactly where they are just yet. The Colts, I thought the Colts should have won this football game. I mean, I thought they just left it on the table. A.D. Mitchell sold this fucking game for the Colts. The Jonathan Taylor run. One, it hurt my soul a little bit because Joel Moran fleeced my dumb ass in the 12-team league and got me to somehow trade the number 1 fantasy guy this year for a guy with Jake Browning at his quarterback. So
wow, you traded Taylor for Jamar?
I did. I ended up pulling the trigger. I should not have done. I mean, my team's still all right, but I shouldn't have done that. Taylor's been eating. Bro,
Yeah.
he has had 2 of the most ridiculous runs I've seen in my life this year. The one last week was absolutely absurd. Dude, Jonathan Taylor is doing shit I haven't seen in years. I mean, not years. Saquon was doing the shit last year, but
Yeah.
it's crazy when a running back can have this kind of individual impact. A.D. Mitchell fumbles the ball across the goal line. Like, bro, just hold on to the football. Don't celebrate. Act like you've been there before. And then gets the holding penalty on the Jonathan Taylor rush. So to me, it's like A.D. Mitchell took 14 points off the board for the Colts. And so I thought they went toe-to-toe. Obviously, I wish Daniel Jones could have been a little more clutch at the end and not sold the game. He could have looked a little bit better under pressure. I did think that we saw a little bit of that kind of, not regression from Daniel Jones, but you got a glimpse of Giants Danny Dimes. But I think the Colts are really good. The one area of concern to me isn't related with your take about Puka. It's a hellish matchup lining up against Nakua and Devontae Adams for sure. The Colts, in my opinion, have got to address their cornerback position. The Rams, too. I think the Rams and the Colts both need to address their cornerback positions before the playoffs start. Well, more specifically, before the trade deadline, because it's not like the NBA. I think the deadline's it used to be week 6. Maybe it's week 7 or week 8 now, because I know that I think it changed a couple of years ago. But there's two glaring weak points on both of these defenses to me. For the Colts, it's Xavier Howard, who in this game allowed 7 catches for 112 yards, a touchdown. He had an opposing passer rating allowed of 155.6. And then for the Rams, it's Emmanuel Forbes. And I think there's a few injuries in their secondary right now. Emmanuel Forbes cannot be playing meaningful snaps for you come playoff time. If he's the 4th corner or the 3rd corner on the depth chart and not getting a ton of burn, I think he'll be okay. Those guys are glaring weak points where I feel like they could get exploited in a big playoff matchup. But I think both of these teams are legit, and I think the Colts are going to be in the playoffs. I can't double down and say they're going to win this division right now because a certain other team looked really damn good this week. But
yes,
I do think the Colts are going to be in the playoffs.
Look, man, it's a reasonable take. You got to give them their credit. Like, obviously, they had a couple dominant victories already in the year, but that was against Miami. That was against Tennessee, two of the worst teams in football this year, especially Tennessee. My God, they are a special type of bad when the Houston Texans beat you by 26.
I've got one for that, too.
Ooh, I'm excited for that. Yeah, they are just terrible. But this was the big test, right? Go up against one of the elite teams in football, which the Rams are, to me, one of the elite pass rushers in football, which they are. And, like, obviously, Danny Dimes did not have the spotless performance that he had over the first 3 weeks, right? He had 2 picks. Both of them were pretty bad. The first one was really bad. The second one, you're trying to lead a game-time drive late, but he really forces the issue into double coverage. So that is going to be what holds this team back. I still do believe just the inconsistency of the quarterback play against some of these other really good teams. But as we talked about, they've done so much to put him in positions to succeed, and that was enough to still have them right in this football game. And like you say, I mean, specifically the fumble on the goal line, man. That's like the most inarguable. You just straight up cost us 7 points. You were in the end zone, and it's the most inexplicable, mind-numbing kind of turnover to make in football. I felt bad for him, though, because, like, it wasn't an intentional drop the ball. You know, you have when guys intentionally drop the ball, he's just holding it out a little bit, and he lost it, and you could see it on his face. He was like, oh, fuck, I lost that ball before I crossed the goal line. And then he was, like, kind of running to recover it, and he didn't even celebrate in the end zone. He looked like he knew what had happened. That made me feel bad for the guy just because, like, that's the biggest play of his NFL career up to this point. He's got speed. He's got big play potential.
Well, and not only that, dude, it literally goes, it's like, it reminded me of the Russell Wilson scramble in fumble last year against Baltimore. Great scramble. Russ is out of the pocket for 20 yards. You're going to get into the red zone. Boom, fumble. Like, you just turned a great play into a shit one just like that. Because it was, I mean, before, it's a crazy catch and a crazy run after the catch. Like, he catches that in double coverage and then gets into the end zone. It just that you know, that it's so sudden, you know, that change in emotion, man, from elation to just agony.
I will say for the Colts, I do think that this defense is kind of just okay, and that's where they really hadn't been tested up to this point. But I agree with you when it comes to some of the secondary concerns. They're below average in pressure rate. They've been pretty average when it comes to stopping the run, and when they actually played a Really good offense, which they hadn't faced up to this point. They did get pretty lit up. I mean, the Rams hung 462 yards on them, but I think the Colts are a top 10 offense. I mean, with what they have in the trenches, with what they have in the run game, with the playmakers they do have in the receiving game. You've been talking about Tyler Warren. You love them lining him up at fullback. He gets a touchdown carry at fullback in this one on top of 70 receiving yards. And Danny Dimes is, for the most part, commanding the ship at the level needed. You did see the difference against a really good opponent today, but I don't think anybody's viewing the Colts in like those conversations, right? Nobody thinks the Colts are better than the Rams. I would hope not. The question is more so like, all right, can they maybe win an AFC South where there's an opportunity? Me personally, I don't think there's a fucking chance in hell, but could they be a wild card team? I do think there's a chance of that. I think the Colts are good enough to do that. And so this was a solid performance from them, even though they're disappointed to lose, surely, because they had their chances in this one. Give me another takeaway, Logan. Feed me another take, please.
The Eagles are the best team in football. That's one of my big takes. And
he says with glee and a big smile on his face.
I don't say this with glee. I can just admit it here. I don't particularly enjoy watching the Eagles play football. I don't really like the Eagles. I do think they are exceptionally talented and they are really well coached. That is something that I think that I whiffed on in the preseason. I think I put my stock in the wrong bird team. Not for the wrong reasons. I still think the Ravens are really good, but I do think the Eagles are still the most talented team in football and the best roster and everything in totality. I expected this defense to take more of a step back with the secondary. I think DeJean, Quinion Mitchell, Reed Blankenship have been really damn good. The defensive front isn't as dominant as they were last year with the overturn with some of the pieces that are missing, but Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter are still destructive. Zach Bond is one of the best linebackers I've just ever watched. And then offensively, probably still have the best offensive line, a top 5 wide receiver duo. I would buy top 3. There's just so many damn good ones with Pickens and CD and Higgins and Jamar. And there's a lot of good wide receiver 1s and 2s, but they're still top 5 there. Still got Saquon, and then Jalen Hurts can still make plays. I did think it was funny, the fact that he had 0 passing yards in the second half and went 0 of 8 in the second half. I think he became the only quarterback in NFL history to win a game where he had 0 passing yards in the second half of a game, which is pretty ridiculous.
Is that true? That can't be true. That must be like post-merger or something, maybe. Because in the 40s, you know the George Halas Bears and the Steve Owen Giants. I think they played some 0-0 games and probably were handing it off every single time in the snow. But, I mean, 0 for 8 is crazy.
No, it was since someone. It's not ever. That's okay. On my – since – wow. You want to – I'll give you the year. 2008 was the last time a quarterback did this.
Who would have been handing the ball off
Super Bowl,
every damn time?
This guy was
Rex Grossman.
That's not a bad guess. This guy went to a Super Bowl and was closer to being washed by this point in his career. He was washed by 2010.
That's interesting. I was just thinking about maybe saying Dilfer. No, this guy.
Not a bad guess.
Delhomme?
Jake Delhomme. Wow. Last quarterback to do that in win a game. So,
wow,
good company.
He was the more and more on D'Angelo Williams, I guess.
Every week, Carson, it just seems like the Eagles have a stat like this, or we come away and hurt. And you know, sometimes I'll take it negative and I'll go, "Oh, this is the reason the Eagles can't." No. The reason that the Eagles can win games like this is because they are so exceptionally talented and loaded, and I just think through 4 weeks they've put more on tape and shown us who they are than any other team. I think they've shown us more through any other team through 4 weeks. So I'll go ahead and spoil it. I think they're the best team in football right now.
That's fair, man. What I will say is nobody has convincingly grabbed that title to me whatsoever through 4 weeks. Honestly, you're kind of looking around and you're like, okay, has anybody played 4 dominant weeks? No. Has anybody played 4 dominant quarters week to week? Like, no, man. I mean, the Eagles certainly haven't, right? But they just do enough. I think you got to credit the special teams as much as anything, because without special teams, I mean, they certainly lose last week because they had the 2 blocked kicks. And obviously, we don't need to get into the whole butterfly effect here, but like, they maybe could have lost this week. They really could not move the ball in the second half. Obviously, they had the blocked punt and return touchdown. That's what I'm talking about early to take their initial lead. But I will say they feel like as safe a bet to win a game as anybody because they do have so much defensive talent. They do have a lot of playmakers offensively. The special teams has been like the best special teams unit in football this year. And so, yeah, maybe it's not 4 quarters of convincing football every time, but they're finding a way against good teams. That's what they've done really in every game this season. They haven't had an easy one on the schedule, but they found a way against the Cowboys. They found a way against the Chiefs. They found a way against the Rams. They found a way against the Buccaneers. I will say, though, I can't ignore some of these offensive issues still that remain. I mean, we praised them a lot for getting the passing attack going in a big way in the second half against the Rams. That's the only time their passing attack has even been solid this entire season. Not just like the only time it's been good, the only time it's been solid, man. And the run game has not been even remotely close to as effective as it was last year. Philly right now is 26th in net yards per pass attempt, and they're 29th in yards per rush. They've been significantly outgained in every single one of these games. So there's always the duality in football, small sample size sport, of being like, yes, let's praise this team for winning when things don't look pretty and they maybe weren't at their best. But then also it's like, if you have a pattern of a team that keeps winning some of these weird close games, how much is that a good thing versus how much is it a concern maybe that they're never like having a dominant performance?
Oh, that's the Pittsburgh Steelers classic dilemma right there, man.
Sure. Of course, we're talking about a totally different level of football talent here. And like, I do believe Philly's an elite team. You can't ignore the talent they have on both sides of the ball. They just find a way to make some of these big plays. And by the way, I'll say this. I am concerned about the offense right now. Also, though, they never turn the ball over. I mean, they have the lowest risk offense in football. It's been a pretty low reward offense as well, but that's part of how they're winning all these games too. It's special teams, it's turnover margin. They have 1 turnover this entire season. They've won the turnover margin in every game. So it's been enough so far. No question, they're really, really good. With the concerns I have about their offense, though, I do not have them as my number 1 team right now, just because I think that is so damn important. I mean, when you get to a playoff run, there's going to be a couple games where you have to elevate offensively. And they did it in the second half against the Rams. But this game, honestly, I thought the Bucs had a lot of chances back into. I thought the Buccaneers defense picked up in the second half. Obviously, the Eagles could not do anything to move the football. And the Bucs offense just didn't quite come through enough. And like, I hate to do this to you, Logan. Just a terrible interception by Baker down 8 in the red zone. You just can't do that.
I mean, that's a really bad play. He's injured, though.
All right, well, I guess we'll chalk that up to injury. But
well, I mean, he had a bicep. I thought this was not. I mean, Baker hasn't been good this year. I don't think Baker has been a top 10 quarterback this year.
No.
I don't think Baker has. I think Baker has honestly aura-farmed his way into some of these conversations because, like, the way I'm serious, bro. The way some of these commentators talk about him during, oh, Baker, so clutch, and it's like, dude, the reason that they're losing coming into these games is because they didn't move the ball through 3 quarters. Yeah. Like, I don't think Baker's been good. That was an uncharacteristic interception at this stage in Baker's career because he's so steady and so smart and knows when to be risk averse and when to not make that throw.
Well, he likes to take his risks.
I feel like he's gotten better at it, but that was a boneheaded mistake. But he is. The reason he was wearing that, I think he was wearing one of those braces on he was dealing with a biceps injury. That was why I took Philadelphia in this game, was only because of Baker's injury. I thought they were really vulnerable. I still think Philly's a little bit vulnerable against some of these elite passing attacks like LA. And that is the kind of stylistical team that I would take to knock down Philadelphia if they're going to lose, is a high potent, explosive kind of offensive attack. But I can't defend that pick. I don't think Baker's been good this year. Baker's had a bad season.
I don't think he's been good either. It's been very erratic is the word, which like is always kind of the downside with him, right? He's got some of that jittery pocket movement. He does have the questionable decision-making at times and clutch drives in each of the first 3 games. But I was high on the Bucs coming into the year, and they've obviously had some moving parts here just with the injuries. Like, they finally get Wirfs and Godwin back for this week. and Mike Evans is out. So some unfortunate circumstances there, some inconsistencies. I do wish the offense had looked better up to this point, though, and I think some of that you put on Baker and some of these key absences as well. But Abuka is obviously amazing. The passing attack hasn't been as consistent. The run game hasn't been as dominant and imposing. I mean, Bucky Irving has made a shit ton of plays in the passing game, more so than the run game up to this point. So I like the Bucs, but they haven't quite played up to the level that I would have hoped. And they kind of shot themselves in the foot against a really good team in this one. I mean, it's crazy, dude. They had almost double the total yardage that the Eagles did, and it's just a couple turnovers and some missed opportunities to come back and take this game late. You know who the Bucs are missing, Logan? You know who they're missing oh so bad? Your NFL Coach of the Year to be Liam freaking Coen. Nobody's doing a better coaching job in the NFL right now, Logan. And this is the man who I banked on. This is the man who I put everything in on. And he's delivering. Like, these are the Jags, pretty much, that I envisioned when I picked them to win the division. And I picked Liam Coen to be your Coach of the Year before the season. He just makes life so much easier on his players offensively. Trevor Lawrence is tied for the lowest pressure rate faced in all of football. He has the fewest sacks of any player to start all 4 games. He's taken 3 sacks. This is an offensive line that we were worried about coming into the year. And now you are talking about a quarterback who is being exposed to so little risk in the passing game. And the run game is utterly dominant. I don't think we can say enough about Liam Coen as one of the best offensive minds we've seen in this league in a long time. And specifically when it comes to the run game and the screen game, which are interrelated, his ability to just churn out an elite group, it's incredible. Obviously, we saw it last year with the Bucs taking the worst rushing attack in football and making them one of the absolute best. This Jaguars rushing attack last year was below average. ETN was struggling some. Now ETN's been one of the most dynamic players in football. The run game is 4th in total yards, 6th in yards per attempt. Even still, it feels like the Jags potentially do have another level they could go to offensively. I've talked about with T-Law, him just needing to cut out on that one bad mistake a game, 1 to 2 bad mistakes. He could be a little more consistent. I think the talent is within him. But more so, it's like, you look at the playmakers in the receiving game, and Brian Thomas Jr., Travis Hunter, these guys still have to fully find a rhythm. Travis had a better game in this one, but he has not produced as I would have expected. And Brian Thomas Jr., obviously, was just having major psychological issues. That it's getting better, and I think he's still a great player, but that was a huge issue through the first few weeks of the season. But nevertheless, like, the offensive floor, when your quarterback never gets pressured and you run the ball at this level so consistently, is so high. And then the real big playmakers you do have potentially in the passing attack, they can just take them up another level. Those guys just have to deliver ultimately. I think Liam Coen is doing everything that he can. And defensively, the Jags make big plays, man.
I was going to say, dude, I haven't really been impressed by the offense that much. The defense is where I've been most impressed with Jacksonville this season. I think that's the best side of the ball for them.
It probably has been up to this point, but I do think when you look at coaching offensively, they've been pretty exceptional. Keep in mind, this is the Liam Coen glaze session. I think with the inconsistencies from some of his key players, he has still gotten them to a pretty high offensive level considering that. But yeah, defensively, they've got some big-time players up front, especially Josh Hines-Allen, who is just an absolute monster. They can pressure the quarterback, and they force turnovers, man. They vary looks. They play aggressive. Devin Lloyd is a monster for them. He has been another guy who's causing confusion, making big plays defensively. So really, shout out to the entire coaching staff here. Shout out to Anthony Campanelli as well. This is just a legitimately good football team. And I still think they have the potential to play better when I look at, again, some of these key offensive playmakers. So I guess I'll address my beef with Robert Saleh now. I thought it was appalling what he said about me in the pregame press conference throughout the week. And look, you can frame it however you want. If you are going to insinuate that I am stealing is a crime. So now you're insinuating that I'm a criminal. What happens to criminals, Logan? They go to prison. Prison is the worst. So now you're saying you want me to spend my life in prison, which is the worst, and you actually took it even farther because when I reasonably confronted you post-game and I said, hey, buddy, keep my name out of your mouth, okay? Don't say those things about me, Liam Coen. You come back, you say, oh, I'm going to end your life. Okay, so now you're advocating for the death penalty. And you're advocating for the death penalty in a case where, like, you have even said what I did was legal, but you implied that it was illegal. It's just disgusting behavior, Logan, and just feels good to get a win and move on to the next. But obviously, I think there's some jealousy there. Jags' job came down to me and Saleh, and I got the job, but just didn't like any of that. So I felt like
I think he's just jealous of your magnificent head of hair. I think that's where it all stems from, personally. Probably your radiant smile, your beautiful eyes.
Oh, my God.
You know?
Thank you so much. Well, and obviously, the way that I said Duval, I think has impacted a lot of people and probably will forever. What do you think, man? Are you with me? Is Liam Coen doing the best coaching job in football right now? Are those Jags playoff bound? Come on, get on the train, hop on. I got a seat for you. I saved you a seat. I got all your favorite snacks.
I think they'll be in the playoffs. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I can get there with them. The Texans I'm out on. The Titans I think are I'll get to the Titans in a minute. I'm going to be honest, dude. I love everything about the Jaguars and what they're doing right now except Trevor Lawrence. I'm just not there with Trevor Lawrence. It is everything around him. I think the defense has been phenomenal this year. They're fifth in scoring. They're fifth in terms of red zone defense. They are number one in turnovers. The Jaguars have been turning over teams like crazy. They're second in score percentage defensively. I'm super impressed. And that is huge. You as a football team, and this was a staple of the shitty point differential Pittsburgh Steelers, you win the turnover margin by crazy, and then you just eke it out offensively. And I'm doing the Jags a disservice there because I think this running game is on a different planet with what Etienne's doing, with Bashal Tutin, with the screen game. Liam, like you said it really well, dude. Liam Coen is so good at taking pressure off of his quarterback's shoulders.
Yeah.
That's what worries me about T-Law, is I'm like, damn, dude, you are in an optimal coaching situation, and you still feel like you're dragging this unit down. It is a great run game, a really good screen game. They're getting the ball out quickly. He's not taking sacks. T-Law is the only reason I can't get there with this team because they're 26th in terms of third down offense, 35%. They're 21st in terms of red zone offense, 8 of 16, which credit to them. They've gotten to the red zone a lot. They just need to put the ball in the end zone, and then it's the turnovers. So I'm close. I could get there with you with the Jaguars, man. I think Liam Cohen's coaching his ass off. I think this defense has done a complete 180. They were one of the worst units in football last year. That team would give up mid-game. It really is just Trevor Lawrence, man. I got to see it from him, and I just continue to be disappointed. I just don't know when we finally hold his feet to the fire. I don't know. I've been disappointed with T-Law, man. He's the only reason why I just can't get there with Jacksonville.
I think that is fair to an extent. What I will also say is the receivers who we thought were going to be big-time impact players, they have seriously underachieved. And like with Brian Thomas Jr.,
they also might lead the league in drops. Yeah, that's fair. They do lead the league in drops, I'm pretty sure. And I saw a graph before this game that nobody has been cost more EPA per play than Trevor Lawrence by drops yet again, which has been the story of his entire career. But like coming into this game again, if you just didn't have these significant drops, like he would actually be pretty high up in terms of EPA per play. And instead, because of the drops, he's much more average. So I think there are some issues with him. Again, there's a bad decision or two a game. There's still some accuracy issues. There's still some inconsistency in terms of his base. And that's all fair to point out, right? I don't feel super good about T-Law right now. And then I also do feel like his numbers sell him short because of some of the shortcomings of some of these playmakers around him. So I think Liam Coen is doing everything to put these guys in the position to succeed. And that's why I continue to say I think the Jags can still look better. But with what they've done defensively, you have to be encouraged by that. With the offensive infrastructure in place, the floor that is baked in now with this run game, this screen game, you got to feel good. And this was a really good win on the road against a playoff team. Well, a team that was 3-0. We'll see if they're in the playoffs. And they got their starting quarterback back. I will say it was a tough game for Brock Purdy. And it was just kind of a dysfunctional day for the Niners overall. I mean, they had some drop issues of their own, a number of drop issues, but also Brock threw a brutal pick that was deflected at the line of scrimmage. But either way, didn't like the read there. Devin Lloyd was coming over to make a play. And in his last 5 starts, Logan, going back to last year, Brock Purdy is 1-4 with 9 interceptions across those games. There is a
risk profile with him, it's significant. Like, this is part of the reason that the game manager label for Brock has never been totally accurate.
Oh, the Niners are
he takes
chopped,
risks,
bro. The Niners are chopped. They're going to be
they're
the new,
chopped.
They're going to I don't know about this season. Next year the second that money kicks in, the Niners are boned. They pulled the Tua. They pulled the Tua West.
Yeah, I mean, the specifics of the contract allow them a little more flexibility than the Tua deal. But yeah, I mean, if you look at some of the later years of that Brock deal when the cap hit really gets up there, that's rough, dude. It's rough. I mean, he's just not a quarterback who deserves to be paid that kind of money.
I'd say
totally mediocre.
they got 3 seasons. When you start paying Brock 34 M's and 49 M's a year, it's over, dude. And that's the thing. That's why I never was. This is going to sound maybe a little crazy with what I've been saying today. I would have been more willing to pay Trevor Lawrence the money that he got paid than Brock Purdy because there's still tools and stuff where I could see T-Law getting better. Brock is what he is. And Brock's a good quarterback. I don't even want to do him like that. Brock's not like – he's not the worst of the worst. He's not the woke. Like, Brock is capable. That's the word I give him. But you don't pay capable guys who are at their ceiling like superstars.
Especially not when you have the single most proven record of elevating quarterback talent of any coach in the NFL right now.
Exactly.
Like, I understand Niners fans are so committed to the idea of, we have to find that quarterback that, like, you want to attach to the guy no matter what. But it's frustrating because, like, it's going to be really, really hard to win a Super Bowl with mediocre quarterback play, but it's easier to win a Super Bowl with mediocre quarterback play on a rookie contract than it is on a big contract paying him like he's one of the premier guys at the position. So I don't want to just shit on Brock. I think obviously Brock is better than Mac, but has Brock looked better than Mac this year? No. Is it a surprise that Mac comes in and can execute this offense and put up pretty good numbers and get a couple wins? No, because that's what Shanahan always does with guys. So that's just the reality. I think he is clearly the most valuable part of this machine, and that's always been the case.
And I don't want to pile on him because there are some other Kendrick Bourne has got a pair of horrible a pair of horrible drops.
Oh, yeah, just bricks for hands.
I also thought the Niners kind of got hoed on that punt return, the Parker Washington return TD. I thought there was a block in the back pretty clearly at the point where they returned. So, like, this game isn't just on Purdy. I also thought the Niners themselves didn't set up Purdy for success. Late in this game, when it's close and the Niners have a chance, 3rd and 3 in Jags territory, they call this weak-ass toss to McCaffrey, and then they put Purdy up against the wall where he needs to force a football, and then he throws another interception. So I didn't think there was a lot of good stuff from the Niners. But Purdy wasn't good either. Like, those interceptions were bad, and I thought they were the one to, I think it was to Devin Lloyd, I thought that was going to get picked off regardless of if it got tipped at the line of scrimmage. That was a dud, man. So
I agree.
It wasn't all Purdy, but it was pretty bad from Purdy.
You're not going to win a football game where you have 4 turnovers. No. That's just the reality. And the Jags took advantage. And by the way, the Jags have been forcing everybody into multiple turnover games. That's part of their formula. But I still think the Niners are a good football team. I think that this was a rough showing for them. But obviously, the Bosa injury does matter a fair bit for this defense. And Brock has to be more consistent. This past week, Theo was trying to sell us on the Niners as one of the top NFC contenders. I can't get there. I think that they'll probably be in the playoffs because of the schedule, because of their coaching, because they've got enough talent when they're healthy, but they're a weird football team, and this was a weird game for them. Give me another takeaway, Logan. Give me another one. Come on.
My last one might be a little bit obvious. Carson, I think we need to put the Tennessee Titans on winless watch, man.
Oh, I like it. Oh, yeah.
Coming into this season, I thought there were going to be 3 football teams that were well below the pack. I thought it was going to be the New Orleans Saints, who I thought were going to be the worst team in football. I don't really feel that way. I honestly think Kellen Moore can kind of gimmick up Spencer Rattler enough to where they can move the ball and, like, get close in these football games where I just feel like New Orleans is going to eke 1 or 2 out. I feel like
they've only been blown out once. Only Seattle blew them out. They've been in every other game.
Exactly. Cleveland. right, obviously has their comical shortcoming with Joe Flacco at quarterback, but that defense stole them a win against Green Bay. Uh, Tennessee is flat out a dumpster fire. I mean, Cam Ward said as much in the press conference. I don't know if I've ever seen someone be so candid in a presser afterwards. He just said, I'm going to keep it a buck. We're ass. Yeah, that's about right, man.
Sure.
They are number 32 in offense right now, 12.8 points per game. They're number 28 in terms of defense, 30 points per game allowed. And they are the number 32 third down offense. We talk about bad offensive lines, man. I think the Titans are up there also for the worst in the National Football League, if not the worst. I think I would probably take them over Houston for the cake, even though Houston's is atrocious. And Cam Ward is kind of what I thought Cam was going to be, man. There were some accuracy issues with Cam that I thought were going to be some growing pains in terms of completion. And the receivers haven't done him any favors. I think the receivers have had their fair share of lowlights. Cam has not done a great job of protecting the football. The offense can't move the ball outside of Cam, right? They can't run the ball, so like they're putting all of their eggs in the rookie quarterback basket, which is just never where you want to be. There's only been a handful of legitimate rookie elevator quarterbacks. That's like Andrew Luck, Justin Herbert. Where like they really don't even have a running game to rely on, and they're still leading out pretty good offenses, right? Even as great as a guy like Jaden Daniels was, right? Jaden Daniels had a running game as a rookie. C.J. Stroud had a running game as a rookie. Like actual elevators with bad situations. Cam Ward is not that. I still think there's going to be some growing pains. I said before the season started, I thought he'd be like 20 TDs to 20 picks. I think he's going to be right around there at the end of this season. And so this is just through 4 weeks, man. And I feel like I made this about Carolina last season, and I was just wrong. They put in Andy Dalton. They figured it out. There's not an Andy Dalton to turn to in this room.
Well, and then also they put back in Bryce, and Bryce was playing a lot better.
Exactly.
But that was a more talented offense. I mean, at least what
agree.
they had with the offensive line.
And Chuba.
Yeah.
I just, in my gut, man, I feel like we're looking at the 2008 Lions, the 2017 Browns. I didn't think the Titans could be this bad, man. And I don't like Brian Callahan. I got a bad feeling, man. I think Callahan and the staff are going to get axed after this season. And this is it. This is it, man. Callahan had to win some games last year with Will Levis. Unfortunately, I think he's done for, and this goose is cooked. I think this team's going to go winless.
Look, man, it's definitely possible. I will say, if you look at the schedule, they do play the Browns. They do play the Saints. There's a couple of ones that they could maybe win in there. But, honestly, I think it's not crazy to say they are a tier below those teams. Just when it comes to competence. And I believe in Cam Ward long term. I understand the numbers right now look horrific. I don't care. He is in hell. The Cam Ward subplot right now is absolutely horrifying. And I still think the arm talent there is really pretty incredible. I think his ability to create out of structure is incredible. Yes, there are issues right now, absolutely, with some of the decision-making, some turnovers, accuracy, and obviously he's taking a shit ton of sacks. He's got to be able to just operate an NFL offense a bit more quickly. At the same time, there's no harder NFL offense to operate, and there's nobody who's being pressured more, and there's nobody who has fewer playmakers to turn to. It's just a disaster all around him. So I can definitely see this. I mean, the last 2 weeks, dude, oh my God, they've just been so horrible. In terms of just overall yardage, dude, they're almost being doubled on the season. They have 842 yards and 1474 allowed. They are truly abysmal. Let me ask you though, Logan, if there's one more team who, when we're talking about the absolute worst of the worst in the NFL now, deserves a mention, how about the Cincinnati Bengals right now without Joe Burrow? Because I was already low on the Bengals, right? We've talked about this a lot. I think their defense sucks. I think their run game's bad. I think their line is bad. And I just think their roster construction has been very, very poorly designed. So I didn't think they were a playoff team last year. They weren't. I didn't think they were a playoff team this year. I don't think they were going to be with Burrow. They looked super mediocre with Burrow on the field. I mean, they barely beat the Browns, and then they were down in week 2 with Burrow on the field. All that being said, I thought with Jake Browning, they could look capable because we saw it in 2023. They had a winning record with Browning. His numbers were at least pretty good. I mean, he is just committing terrorism out there on the football field, dude. Like the throws that he is missing, some of the decisions that he's making, some of the throws that he's not seeing, but the inaccuracy, the lack of composure, it's just like, holy shit. This guy's like the worst quarterback that I've seen play football this year. And he's got Jamar and T out there.
It's almost endearing.
You like it?
Dude, it's like, damn, this guy has no idea what the fuck he's literally just standing. That first game, bro, I didn't think it was going to be this bad. I did think Browning was going to have like a Jameis Winston kind of season where it's just like he doesn't understand what's going on, but he just fucking whips it. He doesn't even have that going. He literally has no idea what's going on.
Dude, I mean, T and Jamar are separating, and he is missing them by 10 yards. Like, and when you compound it with the fact that everything other than the receivers on this roster is bad. And, you know, Trey Hendrickson on the defense, but the defense still sucks. Let me just read you some of these numbers, Logan. The most basic numbers there are. They lost 48-10 to the Minnesota Vikings last week, and they were more than doubled in terms of yardage. They lost 28-3 to the Denver Broncos this year, and were outgained 512 to 159.
You know, I was staunchly against this idea.
Yeah.
I actually think the Bengals should trade for Russell Wilson.
But like, what's the point? To what? To win 6 games?
No, just so Jake Browning is not out there. Dude, you're gonna lose Jamar T. Jamar T are going to crash out on you before the end of the season.
It is crazy. They can't even get Jamar the ball, man. It's actually so sad.
Well,
I do have him in fantasy in one of my leagues.
At least Russ, if you had him, if he gets one-on-one, man, you know Russ can just put it up there. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Is there anybody else like across the league? I get what you're saying. Like, it's pointless. Just tank the season. Go get a high draft pick. Go draft an offensive lineman or something like that. So I understand your argument. My thing is just for like, what's the word I'm looking for here? Just like
decency
character.
Sake. Pride?
Yeah, pride. That's the word. Just for pride. Just like go out there and get somebody who's an actual NFL QB, man. I don't know. Like Drew Lock, Sam Howell, Taylor Heineke. Look, dude, your options aren't great. I'm not going to lie to you, bro.
I don't know, man. Maybe if they wanted to trade a 7th rounder for Russ, I don't know that the Giants would do that. I mean, I guess then they could have Jameis as their backup. But, like, yeah, I'm not giving up anything more than a 6th rounder because the season is cooked no matter what. The season is cooked. And by the way, Zach Taylor's cooked. I mean, he's done, dude. There's just no way that he keeps his job after this year. And everybody should be gone. Like, this is pretty catastrophic what the Bengals have done as an organization when you consider that it was 4 years ago that they were in the Super Bowl. And
they're the most poverty franchise in fucking football. I don't care what anybody says about Cleveland. Cincinnati is a bunch of cheapskates and a bunch of bums, and they don't want to actually put money into their franchise. I still believe, this may have changed, for the longest time, the Cincinnati Bengals were the only team in the NFL that didn't have an indoor practice facility. Like, the Bengals are a joke, man. They are a joke of a franchise. It's crazy to me, man. I don't know if it's like this in other sports because I don't follow closely enough to really know, like, soccer or baseball.
yeah.
Football is so organizational dependent, man, from the top down. And if you don't have the people in place, you're fucked more than any other sport, I feel like. If your owner and head coach aren't aligned and incompetent, it is just going to seep down to the rest of your roster, and you're just done. Like, Joe Burrow literally just holding this franchise together, man.
Yeah, dude, I gotta say, I said, like, when Burrow got hurt, obviously it sucks. Obviously it's a big step down, but not to the extent of like losing a Lamar Jackson who's got that one-man offense component. Because historically, if you looked at like the on-off stuff for the Ravens with Lamar versus the alternatives, it was a way more drastic difference than it was for the Bengals, who again, we had seen play solid football with Jake Browning. Right now, Jake Browning is playing such absolutely horrible football that, I mean, that gap feels as big. Ultimately, I actually don't think it is quite as big, but it's pretty fucking massive. I don't know. I think a Russ honestly would make this offense look fine. Not good, certainly, probably below average still. But like you said, I mean, at least there's an element of the vertical passing game. There's an element of the experience. Jake Browning looks like the 50th best quarterback in football, like maybe worse. I don't know. He looks like a bad backup right now, which I have to say, I did not think he was going to look that horrible. I'll give you a takeaway, Logan, about a guy who's looked really damn good, though. And I think it's going a little bit under the radar. Drake Maye is playing at maybe a top 10 quarterback level right now. And look, this past week, they destroyed the Panthers. We know the Panthers are terrible. But nevertheless, I mean, they absolutely obliterated them. And it's the totality of what Drake Maye has been doing this season, especially these last 3 weeks. He is just in such complete control of the game for a guy who is as young as he is. And he's got elite physical tools. When you talk about arm talent, size, the mobility is very good. His accuracy has been money. He's been so damn efficient and consistent. And to be averaging over 270 yards per game of total offense, 8 yards per pass attempt, 109 passer rating, 9 touchdowns to 3 turnovers in this offense, man. I mean, with an offensive line that is still clearly well below average, with a group of pass catchers that is still clearly below average. Diggs now has found more of a rhythm with him, which is good. But, like, that's legit stuff. And by the way, this was my bet with Drake Maye. This is why I had the Patriots winning 9 games going to the playoffs. I thought, okay, the defense should be solid. The schedule is very, very light. That was part of it. And Drake Maye is going to elevate this offense to a solid level. And Drake Maye has elevated this offense to a solid level, absolutely. Logan, maybe you'll think I'm crazy. I think if we were redrafting the 2024 group, I would take Drake Maye number 1 overall. And that's even understanding how awesome Jaden is. And I think he had the best rookie quarterback season we've seen. Caleb this year, honestly, overall has been pretty good. I think you feel good about what you've seen from him. But Maye is the guy who, in spite of these circumstances, is doing it in checks every box. When you have the dimensions of athleticism, creation out of structure, the scrambling even. He was like the most effective scrambler in football statistically last year, just on a per scramble basis. And then he's also got all of these dimensions as a pocket passer. He's a stud. And I think this Sunday night football game against the Bills, probably going to wake a lot of people up to just how good he is. And I also think just a few weeks down the line, I look at this schedule, and again, it's so light. I'd be surprised if New England isn't 5-3 by the end of October and Drake Maye's numbers look really damn good and people start talking about them a bit more and there's some more buzz there, because after the Bills, which they'll lose to the Bills, Saints, Titans, Browns. I mean, they're playing 3 of the worst teams in football. I think they win all of those. And you just got to give the guy credit, because we talked about this last year. I mean, his production within the context of the worst offensive situation in football for a rookie was already really impressive, even if it wasn't like the shiniest just on paper in a vacuum. And now, I mean, the production is far more impressive in year 2. He's a monster. He's absolutely going to be one of the elite quarterbacks in football in this league.
Yeah, I mean, I said it after the Steelers game, not just one of the elite quarterbacks in the game, a superstar. I said it last year. We both did, man. We've been Drake Maye Glazers for a while now.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a ridiculous take. With how pro-ready he's been, I don't think he'll ever be as effective as Jaden Daniels in terms of elevating a rushing attack. I think Jaden is truly special. People listening, please don't throw eggs at me for this. I do mean this because I've watched a lot of quarterbacks. When I look at these two guys, and I have said this before, Drake Maye to me looks like Josh Allen. Jaden looks like Lamar. And I don't think Jaden's ever going to be the arm talent or the offensive engine, but I think he can be like Lamar light. And what I mean by that with Drake is like the baked-in easy stuff that Drake can do is so special. Against the Steelers, every third down and short, every fourth down and short, they were coming out in man coverage without a spy, and Drake Maye was beating that defensive end to the corner every single time. That's such a weapon. He just has it all, man. He is the total package. I think they're all going to be superstars. I think we're going to look back, and that is going to be a 2004 kind of class, a 2018 kind of class, a 2020. I think we're going to look back and go, that was the year to draft a quarterback.
Yeah.
If you could get a Caleb, a Jaden, or a Drake, and I think all of them are going to be studs. Caleb is going to be the most long-term. I think Caleb's really going to blossom a year from now. I think this year is going to be good. I've really liked what we've seen from him and Ben Johnson. But Drake is ready. I agree with you. Drake is ready to take that leap and stamp himself now.
Yeah.
He's got it all, man. The composure, the throw power, the accuracy, the speed. And I agree with you too, dude. I don't because New England's been such a shit show post Brady, I don't really think people are paying attention. I think they look at them like the Dolphins or the Jets. I think it's going to be one of the best. You made a lot of really good predictions this year, but the Patriots one, I think, is a lot of the most unexpected. Nobody was banking on the Patriots doing kind of anything this year, and I think a sneaky end-of-the-year playoff push is still on the table for New England. They should have won that game against Pittsburgh,
Absolutely.
man. That one is going to eat them up late at night.
Yeah, well, that was like 95% on Ramondre. If he just does not cough the ball up multiple times, then they win that game.
And damn, man, I'm still mad that they let Drake throw that, even on the Steelers.
Logan,
man.
the Steelers fan, is pissed.
Dude, I just don't like when guys get noticeably concussed on my TV and they're just like, he'll be all right.
Well, you just don't like that Perk Rogers is coming to save your city and save your franchise. You just can't deal with it.
I can get some quick Steelers takes. Rodgers look good. Rodgers look real damn good.
Yeah, Perk Rogers is the man, dude. Here's what I'll say, wrapping it up about Drake and why I think he's the guy I would want out of this class. Jaden makes a really strong case. And I still think that Jaden is the best right now, presuming that he can keep up something close to last year's level. But I do think the rookie gap for them definitely looked bigger. And long-term, I like Drake more because Jaden immediately, first of all, he was in a better offensive situation, but he also had the very translatable right off the bat skill set of being able to lean on his legs as a superpower. And over time, obviously that will remain his greatest strength, but more versatility, more truly elite poise and pocket passing is demanded of all of these quarterbacks. And that's where I just think Drake is so exceptional. I think he's already the best thrower of the football of all these guys.
It's a little harder to game plan for a skill set like Drake Maye's than a guy like Jaden's, where I feel like you can adjust to that kind of attack where if Drake Maye is just firing bullets, you can't really do anything to stop that.
Yeah, and the arm talent is just different. I mean, Jaden is very accurate, but when you talk about zip, velocity, right, doing it off platform, I mean, Drake's got a real big arm. And versus Caleb, I just think the accuracy and the processing right now is not close. Like, we talk about Caleb having the superstar traits, but not always doing the stuff to be good consistently. Drake's doing both.
Caleb doesn't read the field quickly enough now. He is still number one in terms of time to throw in the pocket, one in the bad way, in terms of he holds on to the football longer than any other quarterback in football. And when you watch his tape, that's the most evident thing, man. Caleb is still the guy from that class that was highly touted that I'm most worried about because he takes so long to get through his progressions. Like, Ben's going to have to work on with that, where I don't worry about Maye and Jaden with their processing nearly as much.
No, I mean, I think that they are all going to be very good, but there's no question that you're more confident in Maye and Jaden because they already are very good. And Caleb, I don't think you could say is very good at this moment, even if it's been certainly a better season than last year. Drake doing what he's doing in those offensive circumstances is so impressive to me. And Logan, maybe I miscounted. I do have one more take, though, but it's just a general one, and I'll get through it quickly. I just love the dynamic kickoff so much, man. I mean, there's been a lot of discourse about this. A lot of the traditionalists have been pissed. Some people have crashed out about, these new subjective made-up rules, swinging football games or whatever. Like, obviously, it was super impactful Thursday Night Football this past week, right, where the Cardinals ultimately have an illegal procedure penalty because they can't get their kick in the landing zone because they don't want to kick a touchback because they don't want them to take it out to the 35, and then they end up allowing them to get it on the 40. And there's no question that there's more complications there, but I just don't view that as a bad thing. And especially not when it is paired with the fact that the overarching lead here, the headline should be, we now have more than triple the kick returns being put in play. The kick return had become an obsolete play in football, essentially, Logan. 80% of the time, you were just kicking a touchback and that was it. This is a play that has a potential to be one of the most exciting in football. And I think that we're seeing that totally revitalized now. And the return aspect is a big part of it, right? Having way more returns put in play, having more explosive returns. This is a crazy stat. We're 4 weeks into this season. There's already been 18 returns of 40 or more yards. In 2023, Logan, before the dynamic kickoff, there were 24 total such returns in the entire season. So we're on pace to like triple that number. But also, I actually really like how this is now forcing the kickoff teams to adjust. And I think like the dirty kicks, the knuckleballs, that stuff is really fun. I think, again, this is a play where like basically no skill was required, right? It was kick the ball out the back of the end zone. Not only now do we get to see the best returners make more plays, we get to see the kickers separate from one another. We get to see a Brandon Aubrey who late in that game, this dude is so fucking good at everything. I mean, relative to position, Logan, he might be the best player in the NFL, but like his ability to consistently get the kick in the landing zone and then still have it bounce into the end zone where you're having to take a touchback, but it's the touchback that goes out to the 20, obviously, because they want to incentivize returns on every kick that is put in the field of play that doesn't go straight into the end zone. Like, it's just so much more interesting. We're seeing 4 times the total kick return yardage per game that we did in 2023. I love it. And I don't think it's a gimmick. I get that it's different. The only thing that I wish could be different is I wish there was still a possible way to ambush people with the onside kick. I understand why that isn't possible now, but I think it's great. I mean, they've made the play safer and way more fun, both for the kickoff and the kick return team.
I completely agree. That is still the only area that I don't like the dynamic kickoff is the fact that you can't do onside kicks whenever you want. That being said, the other game that I think you see that really come into play was a couple of weeks ago, Panthers-Falcons. That was a huge reason why the Falcons didn't put up any points on Carolina was because of their ability to pin them back in their own zone with the dynamic kickoff. Not only because of the returns, like you mentioned with the kickers, I like that it adds a layer of strategy to what you're trying to do on the kickoff and where you want to plant the ball. Like, I just like that it's not, we're just going to put the ball at the 20 because it just gives you such an easy incentive to just boot it out of the back of the end zone. Like, there's actual stakes now on the kickoff. And like you said, too, kickers that can add their own spin on it or they add this crazy, again, there's just more strategy. And when you can employ more strategy in football, I'm just a fan. Like when it adds, like you said, dude, more ripples to the game, another layer to the game. I enjoy it. Yeah.
More pressure. It's like, okay, yeah, now you do have to get this kick in the landing zone. And if you fuck up in this phase of the game, that's just like fucking up in any other phase of the game. It's going to cost you in a crucial moment. I don't know why we wouldn't want more high stakes, exciting plays like that. I mean, I'll use the word, Logan, dynamic. The dynamic kickoff really is dynamic, and I love it. And I think it's about as successful as a change of this significance to a sport that is this old can be, truly. I mean, when you think about some of these like wrinkles that other sports have tried to introduce, like, I don't know, baseball is like, oh, extra innings, we got to put a runner on second. Like, I think that's stupid. I think that kind of corrupts the integrity of the game, and it's just not necessary. That is gimmicky. This is not. This is just a rule change that makes the game better. So I just wanted to shout that out real quick. Let's get into our contender rankings, Logan. As we always do, every couple weeks, we rank our top 10 teams in the NFL, not at this very moment, not based on exactly what they've done through 4 weeks, but in terms of our long-term belief in them when we're talking about their ability to make a playoff run, who we think is going to be the best when it actually matters most. Logan, who is in your 10 spot?
So I debated for a while who was going to end up here in my 10 spot. I alluded to this earlier. I have the Indianapolis Colts here in my 10 spot, but I will say there were a lot of other teams that I did consider. The Jaguars, I have to mention, are one with just how good their defense has been. I need to see it from T-Law in this offense. I don't think they faced a ton of elite competition yet, neither of the Colts, but the Colts hung in there against L.A., should have won this game, in my opinion. Their offense has just had a complete different level of volatility. I think they have better playmakers than Jacksonville. That's why I went with them. I trust Daniel Jones right now more than I do Trevor Lawrence. Jonathan Taylor is the best running back in football right now. Tyler Warren's a stud, and they've just been able to move the ball in a different way from a team like Jacksonville. I also considered the Broncos a little bit because of their defense, the Vikings, even though they've had their quarterback troubles, and admittedly, my Pittsburgh Steelers, but I can't get there with Pittsburgh. The Colts I do buy into. I just think this offense is really good. Shane Steichen knows what he's doing, and I think they're going to be able to move the ball on whoever they play. The reason they can't be higher is I do think the secondary is lacking, and I don't think this defense is like a super upper echelon group in the league. But I believe in this offense, and ultimately on the back half of my list, that's enough to get on here. So I've got the Colts in my 10 spot. And I'm just waiting on the Commanders. The Commanders have held down a spot in my top 10 for a while, but just with the Jaden Daniels injury, I'm waiting for him to get healthy and to see what they look like with Jaden before I'm ready to move them back into my top 10.
Fair. Also, I will say, when we talk about the 2024 quarterbacks conversation, unfortunately, another thing with Jaden is just health. Like, it sucks. He's hurt right now. He exposes himself to way more hits than either of the other two guys that we're talking about, especially compared to Drake, and he's got a much slighter frame, so that is a concern there. I have another AFC South team in my 10 spot, Logan. It's an AFC South party. Of course, I have to represent for Duval and my beloved Liam Coen. I see the Colts case. What I would say is I do like the Jags defense a good bit more, and I think that the Jags offense has much more potential to tap into. Now, the Colts offense has clearly been better between the two. I also think the Colts offense is already at its ceiling, has been operated at its ceiling, whereas I think the Jags, with some of the stuff we've talked about with the potential for more consistency from T-Law, Brian Thomas Jr., Travis Hunter, there's more to still grow into and improve upon there. And so I do view the ceiling as being higher overall with them. I look at the Colts at 3-1 and I'm like, yeah, they've done everything they can. I look at the Jags at 3-1 and I'm like, they can still play better. So I am going to go with my boys there. Who's in your 9 spot?
So this team, I still do like. We talked about them earlier. I've got the Los Angeles Chargers, and when we're looking at this team long term, I could see them getting back higher on my list, determining, if Joe Alt comes back and looks good, this team could definitely get back to maybe the 7 spot on this list, I think, at their peak. But just considering all of their injuries right now on the offensive line, I am going to keep them here at number 9. But, I'm trying to do this balancing act because I like Herbert more than some of the quarterbacks that are above him on this list. And I really like how this offense has looked. I think the defense has been really good, too. Dian Henley has looked like a monster. Dante Jackson's been good on the back end. I like a lot of what the Chargers have going for them, but with the offensive line injuries, they've dropped a couple of spots for me to my 9 spot here. But, like I said, there's room for this team to get higher and higher as the season goes along.
I have them 1 spot higher in my 8 spot. I think that this defense is just flat out awesome, and that is a very consistent strength that they bring into every game. And I talk about this a lot, but when you pair elite defense with elite quarterback, that's a formula that I really like to bet on. And I think this receiving core is the best that Herbert has had. Quentin Johnson continues to make plays. Keenan Allen continues to make plays. In fact, Ladd is still just the 3rd most productive receiver in this room, but I do think he's the best. And the run game is a concern here, right? Because it hasn't been super good through the first 3 weeks, but this game they did really open it up. And yes, the Giants have struggled to stop the run, but I thought that Omarion Hampton, he was bouncing off tackles. He was making some explosive plays for you. So I think they're really good. My concern now is just more so about the offensive line, and as we talked about, the pressure that is put on Herbert over and over again. The team that I was really comparing them up against is the Rams, because I've consistently had those teams like back-to-back in my power rankings, I think dating back even to the preseason. That's where they've been, or our contender rankings, I should say. And I think they have a lot of similarities. Ultimately, I like the Rams' offensive formula a little bit more, just with the level that Puka and Devontae are playing at. I do trust that run game a bit more. And so I gave them the edge. And I am worried about this Alt injury for the Chargers, but hopefully that's not an issue later in the year. Ultimately, their defense has just been so impressive, and Herbert has been so impressive, that I did have them clearly above my number 19, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think that they're good, but everybody above them has just done more to impress me. Up to this point, I haven't seen the Bucs do anything at an elite level. Ironically, I think their defense has actually probably been slightly better than their offense, which I did not expect. So that's good that their defense has been above average, although they've also faced some very meh offenses. Offensively, I would just like to see the operation be a little bit smoother, a little bit more consistent, because I thought this team could score 30 points per game this year, because that's what they did last year, and they haven't been able to replicate that. But all that being said, we haven't seen them with all 3 of their receivers out there. We haven't seen them with their full offensive line healthy. This week was the first that Tristan Wirfs has played. So that's where I think there's still another level that they can get to. But I've already seen the Chargers play at the level of an elite football team, and so I'm going to give them the nod there.
Here's the reason I went with the Bucs over the Chargers. I feel like the Bucs, I have more faith in the Bucs going head-to-head against the best the NFC has to offer than I do the Chargers battling against the best the AFC has to offer at this point in time. I have been really impressed with the defense, especially the run defense, just consistently. And Todd Bowles always knows how to get the most out of his guys on that end. And I'm actually, I guess, just more optimistic about the offense long-term because I agree with you. I think the Chargers have shown us more of what they're capable of, but I think the Buccaneers have more that they can tap into. Baker's dealing with an injury. Like you said, the offensive line has been playing musical chairs. They're just getting healthy. The wide receivers still aren't fully healthy. They've got a lot of running back options they can turn to if it's Bucky Irving or Rashad White. I just feel like Tampa Bay has more that they can show us as the season goes along. I think Baker can look a lot better. So
yeah, that's fair.
And, again, like I said, I think Tampa Bay matches up better against the NFC's best than the Chargers do against the AFC's best. So I'm going to marginally give them the edge.
That's fair. I mean, the Bucs clearly have the clear formula to being like an elite offense because we've already seen it. And then they added a really good playmaker like Ibuka. That's all there. But I really strongly prefer the Chargers defense, even though I think the Bucs defense has been above average. I think the Chargers defense is awesome, and I really strongly prefer what they have at quarterback. And so even if maybe they don't have the same potential to hang 35 on you, because with the Bucs, I mean, everything can click at once. The screen game, the run game, the passing game, the protection, the run blocking, all of that. They've got playmakers. They got so much talent offensively. But when it does get to some of these games where the possession numbers go down a little bit and it does become about, okay, can we get this key stop and can our quarterback lead us on a key clutch drive? That's why I really like the Chargers. So I still feel like they're a very good team. There's just a couple more concerns now with some of these injuries, especially that we've seen on that offensive line. Okay, Logan. So you have the Bucs at 8. Is that correct?
I do.
Okay. Who is in your 7 spot?
I've got the Rams here in my 7 spot. I like a lot of what the Rams have going for them. An elite pass rush. Jared Verse is an absolute monster.
He is.
And the stuff that we talked about earlier, the fact that you can just bank on Matt Stafford finding Puka and Devontae and lighting teams up. Great vertical passing attack, great pass rush. Stuff that I can buy into. Young, hungry defense, a lot of good playmakers on that end. Landman, Fisk. I like a lot of what the Rams have going for them. So it really is just the fact that they're not as dynamic of an offensive attack as maybe some of these other teams that are higher than them. Like Stafford does have his limitations, like you mentioned, with the mobility. I think the rushing attack could be a little bit better, but the Rams are real deal contenders and really solid. So I don't think I could go any lower than 7 with them.
That's where I have them too. Again, just narrowly edging out the Chargers right now. I mean, the pass rush is just phenomenal. They are 4th in quarterback pressure rate. That's been the strength of this defense. And then offensively, I just think they're a little bit more balanced and a little bit more complete, even though I think the Chargers passing attack has been super impressive. And again, the weapons are improved, and I do like Herbert more than Stafford. I think both quarterbacks are great, and I just think that Stafford has 2 elite receivers, one of the absolute best of the best in Puka. Like Stafford to Puka, that feels like the best quarterback wide receiver connection in football right now. I mean, it clearly has been up to this point on the season. And then the run game with them is just more consistent. It's something they can rely on. It's something that McVay is so great at scheming up. And Kyron Williams, when he doesn't fumble, is a really damn good running back. And so I just see more balance, more reliably elite playmakers there. And that's why I'm going to bet on the Rams a little bit more because of that offense compared to the Chargers. Who's in your 6th spot, Logan?
I have got the Baltimore Ravens here at 6, and I know some people may be laughing at us a little bit because we had the Ravens very high on our last contender rankings.
I had them 1.
I had them 2. Baltimore is still very talented. I would not feel good having them any higher than this, considering the fact that they have lost to 3 teams above them in my contender rankings. And I know people were saying that when we did our contender rankings last time. Baltimore just has to prove it right now. This is a faith bet, having them at number 6. It's really a faith in Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry bet. The fact that they just have a route to easy offense every single game. I've said it before, I'll say it again. The way the Ravens are going to lose every single game they lose is the same every time. They're going to lose the turnover battle. Lamar is going to have a couple of bad plays. Derrick Henry might have a bad fumble, and the defense gets gashed. But they're too talented for me to have them below this mark. again, I'll add an asterisk because I have to. If Lamar misses significant time, okay, I'll just drop Baltimore out of my top 10. They're cooked. They have no chance at doing anything if Lamar Jackson is not out there. They're going to get crushed with Cooper Rush. But I think Lamar is going to be okay. I think they're going to snap into form. There's still 13 weeks of football left in this season. It is a long season, and I'm going to bet on Baltimore figuring it out, being the best team from the AFC North. But as it stands right now, bad defense, shooting themselves in the foot offensively. They've lost to some really good teams. I couldn't have them in good faith any higher than number 6 right now.
I have them in the same spot, man. And like even this, I guess you would say is an upside play. I just really can't possibly put the Ravens lower than this because I know that offensively they can march their way to 30-plus points per game, and they can lead the league in yards per rushing attempt and yards per passing attempt. And then defensively, there's still a lot of talent. I don't know. I feel like I'm seeing some people now downplay the talent that is on this Ravens team when I feel like a lot of their issues have been more coaching and execution related, because this is a really talented football team. Losing Matabike for the year matters, obviously. Losing some of these key defensive players for the moment matters. But a lot of these guys are going to be back, and they should be looking like themselves, and it's just hard for me to not see a significant bounce back coming for this team overall. But I'll compare them to the team who I have in my number 5 spot. Spoiler alert, I've got the Chiefs above the Ravens, which I did not have preseason. I didn't have that after week 2, and a lot of people were really hitting the panic button with Kansas City, and they were underwhelming early, but there is a big game factor with them that I do trust. I believe that Mahomes is now 5-1 versus Lamar, so they've really dictated and owned that matchup. But again, I talk about some of these coaching concerns with the Ravens and some of this like dumb execution stuff. That just never happens with the Chiefs against great teams. No, the Chiefs don't have the same potential to explode. I mean, they don't have the talent on either side of the ball that the Ravens do. Genuinely, they're not going to beat teams 45-10 like the Ravens did against the Browns in week 2 or something like that. And they do that to teams all the time. But at the same time, when you get to a big game, like Steve Spagnuolo is money, man. I still think he is the best big game defensive coordinator in football. You've seen that with their game plan against the Eagles. Even though they lost that game, their defense, for the most part, really, really gave Philly trouble. And you see that this past week where I thought they did a phenomenal job against Lamar and the Ravens offense. And I also think, the Ravens offensive line hasn't looked great up to this point. The Chiefs offensive line has looked good. And the Chiefs are getting those pass catchers back, man. Like, the Chiefs may still stumble, and I actually, Logan, I'll spoil it. I think I really may pick the Jags to beat them in Duval this week, but Rashee Rice still isn't back. So everything with the Chiefs is kind of like projecting what they will look like when they have their best offensive playmaker back. And now that they got their second best offensive player back, they look pretty damn good and they destroyed the Ravens. And there is no question about the level Patrick Mahomes is still playing the quarterback position at. It's still the big 3 and everybody else to me.
Yeah, I actually have the Chiefs a couple of spots higher.
Okay.
It's basically a Mahomes bet versus those two other teams. Like
Mahomes
really is. So I get that. I couldn't have Baltimore above them, certainly. Again, that's why I picked them. It's the big game factor, man. I've seen Baltimore crumble in those spots. I've never seen the Chiefs just fall apart the way the Ravens do consistently, unfortunately. In my 5 spot, I have the Detroit Lions. They've looked really good. Looks like John Morton is figuring out the playbook. I mean, they have just dominated offensively the past 3 weeks. 52 against Chicago, 38 on Baltimore, 34 on Cleveland. When this team gets the rushing attack going, it just opens up everything for all of their playmakers. And kind of like Baltimore, like you're talking about, Carson, Detroit just has this propensity to put belt to ass against teams because of their elite offense. Defensively, I thought they've looked better. Aiden Hutchinson's getting some pressure. Looks like he's getting his legs underneath him, really making an impact. So I've liked what we've seen from Detroit. I kind of still feel similarly to the way I did about them 2 weeks ago. I think this offense is going to be dynamic. Can Jared Goff keep it together in a big spot? That's the only reason the Lions are here at number 5. I think they are exceptionally talented, but when I look at all the other teams above Detroit, it's a quarterback bet, and I just don't believe in Goff the way I do any of these quarterbacks above them. But Detroit's a real contender, and
yeah.
If this offense keeps clicking like this, man, I could see them getting into my top 3 again. Like, the offense is ridiculous.
They've been extremely convincing these last 3 weeks. I mean, I don't think there's been a better team in football these last 3 weeks. So that's why I have them one spot higher than the Chiefs actually in my 4 spot. I just think the talent here is so damn dynamic. And I talked about some of the concerns of losing the coordinators and losing Ragnow and Zeitler on that interior offensive line, and like thinking that they take a little bit of a step back in week 1 was rough. You felt the absence of some of those guys, and ever since then, they've just been the steamrolling machine that the Detroit Lions have been these last couple years, especially last year, obviously, with the infusion of defensive talent that they acquired. They look amazing. I mean, they look every bit as good as they did last year, and now they should be significantly healthier. So I agree with you up against the absolute best of the best when it comes to Goff's lack of versatility, even though, I mean, when it comes to pure pocket passing with a clean pocket, when it comes to executing play action, right? Like, he's a guy who processes the game at a high level within structure, certainly has the arm talent to make these throws. You also can't deny that there are times where we've seen it break down and where we have seen him under pressure because of his lack of an ability to make plays in that context. That's when he can become a limiter, and that's when the ball can start getting put in harm's way, and that stuff happens. But the offensive formula right now, it feels just about as good as anybody's. It's like, yeah, we've got elite playmakers in the passing game, and we've got an elite running back room, and our offensive line is looking pretty damn good, and we can just bully you in that way and kind of get whatever we want. And then there's a lot of defensive talent here at every level. So I was somebody who, I had the Lions at 6 in my preseason contender rankings, but I was saying, hey, Green Bay is the team in this division, which, by the way, I do still think, but that's just because I'm extremely high on Green Bay. I flagged a couple of these concerns with the Lions. I'm just not really feeling them right now. I think the Lions look amazing. They look like a buzzsaw. And, you know, sometimes the team that is so great situationally and has the superhero quarterback and the great defensive mind, like the Chiefs, obviously, they're not a buzzsaw, but they're the team you want in the big game. And so I totally see that case. But the just dominance factor, it's at a totally different level over these last 3 weeks, what we've seen from Detroit compared to, I mean, everybody who I have below them. So I have them in my 4 spot.
Yeah, no doubt. I have the Packers in my 4 spot, really similarly to Kansas City. I mean, 2 weeks ago, I had them number 1. I was high on them. Then they put up a dud against Cleveland, and then they got pushed to OT and 40-piece by Dallas. So just consistency, really, with Green Bay. With Kansas City, I do feel like they're figuring it out. I trust Spags more than I do Halfley to game plan, even though I like Green Bay's defensive talent more.
I love Halfley. I mean, Spags is the GOAT, yeah. But I love Halfley.
I still think Spags is brilliant. And then when I compare like Love was excellent this last week against Dallas, spreading the ball all over the field. There's just a different level of faith I have in Mahomes. And I really do think when Rashee Rice comes back, this could be an elite offensive unit. So the Chiefs have bought me back in. I've been a Chiefs truther every single year. I always buy into Kansas City, and I don't have to do a ton of mental gymnastics to get them back in my top 3. So they haven't been the most convincing team. All in all, probably been a little bit disappointing in terms of their standards, but I've got the Chiefs in my 3 spot. I'll bet on Mahomes. I'm okay with dying with that horse, man.
Look at that, man. You're all the way back in. I can't get quite that high on the Chiefs just because I think, look, we can talk about them having some of these key X factors, Mahomes being the biggest, Spags. We're talking about the same guys and, you know, some of these key impact players too, because, like, those are the guys who have gotten them to AFC title game after AFC title game and Super Bowl after Super Bowl. I do still think there are issues on this roster that don't exist with a lot of these other elite teams. When we talk about the running back room being one of the absolute worst in football and the inefficiencies with the run game. And, you know, I still haven't liked the play calling offensively. That doesn't all change because they have one really good offensive game.
Mahomes just looks locked to me, man. I think this could be the best year of his career.
Whoa.
I mean, like, statistically, I think he's going to have to go above and beyond in a way that he probably hasn't had to. Like, the rushing attack is that bad. I think he's going to – not like he's going to have to put up numbers like this, but I think close to 303 TDs every week is going to be required of Pat to, you know, get some of these dubs for the Chiefs.
I don't think Patrick Mahomes will ever have a better season than he did in 2022.
I'm saying with context.
Ridiculous.
I'm saying with context. The fact that he doesn't have a Tyreek Hill and an elite Kelsey.
He didn't have a Tyreek Hill in 2022. That's why it's his best season, because he's still on 5,200 yards and 41 touchdowns and then had, like, the perfect postseason.
Yeah, I mean, I think. Well, I mean, he still had Kelsey was way better that year than he is this year. Like, I
Yeah,
think
but
that.
I don't think the totality of the weapons in that room were better. I mean, Juju was pretty good, but he was elevating the shit out of that group.
I think Mahomes is going to ball out because they need him to. I mean, there's less margin for error with this team than there has been with Chiefs teams in the past. So I just think Mahomes is locked right now.
I think Mahomes is locked. I just think that's a crazy high bar. I mean, when you're talking about a guy who's got some of the absolute greatest quarterback seasons we've ever seen, 2020, 2018, when you're just looking at that regular season, my God, the league had never seen anything like the Chiefs offense at that time. And now they have, and I still don't think the Chiefs have one of the best offenses in football, but I do think they'll be a very good offense. The defense, I guess, it's just like, I think they're good, not great. So I don't know, man. Call me crazy. I still have the Packers in my 2 spot. Like, I'm just all in, man. I'm all in. And these last 2 weeks have been underwhelming. Obviously, the Browns loss was terrible. That was just so mind-numbing. And, like, yes, the offense had to move the ball better. That is the concern with this team. And obviously, a special teams error cost them that game. It was just a very, very weird loss. And you can knock them for that, and I totally get it. But when I think about the long-term potential of this team, when I see them bounce back and have a 40-point performance like they did this past week, I'm just not too worried about the overall state of this offense. And when I just go like group to group, and I've said this a million times about the Packers already, and I get it. If you think I'm overhyping what they can be at 2-1-1, that's fine. But when I talk about the talent and the coaching and the ceiling on both sides of the ball, being an elite rushing attack, being up to this point in the year, a pretty elite passing attack, right? With the guy who can create out of structure, with a guy who can let it rip all over the field, with a guy who can move, with really good depth in terms of weapons, especially later in the year once they get Jaden Reed back. And, if Christian Watson ever gets back out there and he's an impact player. But even as is, you got to like the depth of the receiving room. And then defensively, I think they're incredible. I think they're so well coached. Obviously, offensively, they have a brilliant guy in LaFleur. The run defense, the overall front seven. I've talked about all this stuff with the Packers before. I just think their ceiling, when you combine the two sides of the ball, is the highest. Do I think their floor is the highest? No. Like, I would say Philly has a higher floor than them because, I don't know, I just guess I still have a couple more concerns about maybe the low points for Green Bay's offense, even though I think their offense overall has been way better than Philly's this year, and Philly's had mostly low points offensively, but they're still 4-0. And they're professionals at winning football games. I just like the upside more with Green Bay. I continue to think that the gap in offensive dynamism and the passing attack is big. And overall, I still think I like Green Bay's defense a little bit more. So I'm just going to keep buying more and more stock and say that when it comes down to it, yeah, the Eagles are 4-0 and the Packers are 2-1-1. I think that the Packers have the highest ceiling of any team in the NFC. And honestly, the highest ceiling of any team in football. But I don't trust Jordan Love quite enough to have them at number 1, even though I like the guy a lot.
Yeah.
So you have Philly at number 1. We know that. So you're number 2, Logan. Just to be clear, I have Green Bay 2 and Philly 3. It's just the Philly offense that worries me. I mean, I read the
you got Buffalo
earlier.
number 1.
Anemic. At the end of the day, man, it was a process of elimination. I don't know. Somebody had to be number 1.
Yeah, I mean, I debated. It's weird, man. I think Buffalo is really built. Buffalo could beat anyone. When you have Josh Allen, and Josh Allen is the best regular season quarterback in football, he just churns out elite offenses. James Cook is also a beast, too. Like, the Bills just have such an easy route every single game, it feels like, to 30 points.
Yeah.
And so I understand the argument. I'm just worried about them against really good rushing attacks. I don't think this run defense is good, and that's why I ultimately went with Philly, the floor aspect, where – not that I'm scarred from the Ravens game because they ultimately won it. I just do worry about them in a playoff scenario up against Derrick Henry again, maybe just getting ran all over. Or, and this is a big picture, but like against Detroit or against Philadelphia, teams that can really get a bunch of push in the run game, even though Philly hasn't run the ball really well this season. Like, high-profile rushing attacks really worry me against the Bills, but I know what I'm getting with Josh Allen. He's got a bunch of playmakers around him, a bunch of real-deal weapons. The offensive line is solid. And I think the defense in totality is really good. It's just the rushing defense that keeps me from really pushing all my chips in on the Bills. But why do you have them number 1?
That's fair, dude. I mean, it's kind of like I said. It just came down to process of elimination. I was coming into this week, and I'm like, who has taken that number one title. And to me, there's nobody who has like blown me away and decisively just dominated their opponents in every phase of the game. It hasn't happened. So I have concerns about the Bills defense. I think there are stretches where the Bills just straight up do not look like a Super Bowl defense. You know, obviously that Ravens game was concerning for a while, but the Dolphins game, I mean, the defense had some issues. The Saints game, the first quarter, I mean, it was like, cool, we're headed for a shootout with the New Orleans Saints. The Bills were allowing 9 yards per play in the first quarter, I believe. Specifically on the ground, the Saints had the third most yards after contact in this game of anybody in the next-gen stats era. So that's the last 7 years, I believe. Like, that stuff's concerning. The safety situation to me is concerning. Joey Bosa, like, supposed to be this impact pass rusher, he's been up and down. Greg Rousseau hasn't been that guy for them. Like, I have these concerns about the Bills' defense, and yet I look at everybody else, and it's like, okay, well, I have a lot of concerns about the Eagles' offense, man. I don't want to downplay that just because they're winning games. Those numbers that I read out about how they have been towards the bottom of the league in offensive efficiency, both passing and running, that is concerning, especially the passing stuff, because the run game, I think they'll get figured out. But, like, if I have to bet on an elite offense with a flawed defense versus a very good defense for Philly, we can call it elite, but it's not what last year's was, I still don't think, and a very flawed offense, like, I'm going to pick the team that I know is going to put up 30 every week. And that's the reality. And look, the Bills have been able to put up 30 every week for years, and they still haven't won a Super Bowl, and it has been the defense that has held them back. But I do think this should be the best offense of the Buffalo era, even though, like, it hasn't always been 4 totally complete quarters from them offensively even. Like, I don't know, there were stretches of the Saints game where I was a little underwhelmed. There were stretches of the Jets game where I was a little underwhelmed. And yet, with the offensive line playing at this level, and with James Cook playing at this level, the run game is so damn consistent. And then Josh does not take negative plays. He doesn't. Like, he threw 1 pick this week. That was his first turnover in God knows how long, and it was like an arm punt situation. It was 3rd and long. He threw the ball 40-something yards downfield. That's fine, but he's just so incredible at blending the A-plus physical stuff with the A-plus mental stuff now. The receiving room, I think, looks a little bit better than last year. Obviously, like, there isn't a number 1 here, but I think Kincaid is having a bounce-back season. I think Keon has looked a little bit better than last year. I've liked Josh Palmer. So, yeah, I know that they can march in there against anybody and pour points on them, and I am concerned about the defense, but there's nobody who I'm not concerned about something with. With Philly, it's the offense. With Green Bay, it's kind of the overall consistency. With Detroit, we've talked about the Goff stuff a little bit, and I think that that's a concern to raise. With the Chiefs, like, literally, are they talented enough? Are they a dynamic enough offense, or are they going to really elevate on defense? The Ravens, everything just looks out of whack right now, even though they have so much talent. So then you look at the Bills offense, and Josh Allen is number 1 in the NFL in passing EPA. As a team, they are number 1 in the NFL in EPA per rush. Like, they're just insane offensively. They've honestly been on a different level than everybody else when it comes to offensive consistency. And then also, you look at where this team is at and the rest of the schedule, and it's like, the Bills are probably going to win like 15 games, man. I mean, there's just not a lot of teams who they're going to face that can push them. They feel like almost a lock for the 1 seed right now, and that's a meaningful advantage too when you're thinking about their playoff path. So, yeah, I don't think it's a convincing number 1, but I had to pick somebody, and ultimately I do like the Bills formula the most, I guess. Like I said, I think the Packers are the highest ceiling, but
I mean,
I think
if you look,
credit that level of consistency yet.
I think if you look at an individual unit of any of our top 10 teams, the one that you would have the most faith in is probably that Buffalo offense.
I agree.
think it's rational and it makes sense. And I would take Josh Allen in an individual game, I think, over any other quarterback right now. Mahomes is 2, but I think Josh is 1 right now for me. I think he's the best QB in the game.
And the offensive infrastructure, man. I mean, like, the Bills are great
just
at
better.
everything offensively, and they're so fucking consistent. And they don't have these Ravens games where it's like, oops, we've coughed the ball up 3 times. Like, the Bills haven't lost the turnover margin in, 25 games now, 26 games. It's an NFL record. And then they have a superhero quarterback, and they have an awesome running back. And by the way, Josh has been pressured also at tied for the lowest rate in the NFL. It's just such a machine. And I think it tells you a lot when I'm like, they could have played a little better. And here they are. They're averaging 33 points per game. And they're sitting at 4-0. And it still feels like they can play better. So, look, it's always going to be about the Bills' defense. It is absolutely possible that there are some major red flags there because the reality is they haven't played a good team since week 1. And so when they next see a really good offense, which honestly probably isn't going to be until they play the Chiefs, like those couple of games against really good offenses are going to tell us a lot about this defense and if it really is Super Bowl caliber. But there is no offense that I trust more. There is no unit that I trust more than the Bills offense, like you said. There's no player I trust more than Josh Allen. And that's enough for now. If you think that's homerism, that's okay. I don't think I came into this year overly high on the Bills. And honestly, I haven't gotten higher on the Bills. I've kind of gotten lower on everybody else. I feel like I've seen more flaws exposed with everybody else, and the Bills have just chugged along enough to take that number 1 spot. So there you have it, folks. Our Week 4 takeaways, our Week 4 power rankings. We hope you enjoyed, and we appreciate you guys tuning in on a Tuesday instead of our normal Sunday night routine. If you want to rejoin us for our Sunday night routine, we will be here this weekend. And if you want to check out all of our other content, NBA season preview stuff, we're coming in hot. We've already talked about the Northwest and Southwest divisions. Go check those out if you haven't. We're talking about every team in the NBA. Also, that'll continue this week. And I came out with a video breakdown, a video essay this past week on whether or not defense really wins championships. I sought to answer the age-old question, or I guess really see if the old adage is true. It was really interesting. I think you guys should check it out. There's a lot of statistical analysis into the numbers in recent history, both the NBA and the NFL. Which side of the ball really does matter more? Only one way to find out, and it's to watch that video. I'd really appreciate it. And of course, you guys can listen to our podcast across all audio platforms, and you can follow us across social everywhere: TikTok, Instagram, @NerdSesh, Twitter, @Nerd_Sesh. And you can join our Discord if you want to chat with the gang there. So with that, as always, we appreciate you guys oh so much. Liam Coen is the GOAT. Never forget it. And as always, I've been Carson Brabber.
I have been Logan Camden.
And this was Nerd Sesh.